the sex work debate. I'm taking a semi-surprising stance on this. It's not super anti-sex work, don't worry. But is Soy starting his Andrew Wilson arc? Hopefully not. Is the soy pill to the right of Nick Fuentes? You betcha. Chocolate-covered cherries? No. It's all about chocolate-covered almonds. Oh my god, if we go to war with Venezuela while I'm debating about OnlyFans, I'm going to be upset. All right, let me unmute this so we can hear them too.
Okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of Wick TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And gang, have we got a show for you tonight? We still got a couple more players that'll be getting here when they get here. Okay, hopefully they get here soon and we can throw them in. But we're gonna start on time with what we got. And I
Wait a minute,
appreciate
Don't, audience, don't get fooled by that cheery voice that he has. Underneath there is frustration. You gotta understand this, okay? Right? But he's a professional, so he's gonna pretend like he's not pissed as hell. But go ahead, Wick.
fair enough.
For the record, I'm never starting an
Tonight
OnlyFans.
we're going to be talking about
also, I don't know why
sex work.
chat is not showing
And from
up.
a
It should come
left
up.
perspective,
There it is.
the left, especially in the last decade, has taken a dramatic pro-sex work turn. While we all may be able to generally agree with that, is there such a thing as too far? And what does being pro-sex work mean? What is sex work? What counts as sex work?
Kyla is showing up.
Should the left
and
support and legitimize
one
the
other
sex work
person's coming as
industry?
well.
Or should we have a more narrowly support sex workers as they navigate an uncaring and predatory environment stance? And we got some great people to talk about it. We're going to get into it. I want to pass the mic first to Abby. Abby, give us your opening thoughts, please.
Well, hello, my name is Abby. I am a college student at St. Cloud State University. I personally believe that sex work is work. The more regulations you put on sex work, the more dangerous positions you put sex workers in. And laws surrounding sex work should be focused on protecting sex workers, not criminalizing
All right, guys, I'm
them.
just looking up the St. Cloud State University acceptance rate real quick. Not
Prime
that it
Kai, what
should-
do you got?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Wick for being so
I
kind
hope
as to invite me
she's
onto his platform. Much
ascending
appreciated,
beyond the
friend.
majority.
And nice to see Soy Pill again, looking handsome as always. And it's nice to meet you, Abby. So yeah, thank you for being here. Abby apparently has a good head on her shoulders because I disagree with
I went to
everything she said.
UCSD.
I am very much against the stigmatization of sex workers. Sex
Stardust
work
coming.
is
Stardust is
labor
here.
and should be protected like any other labor. I find that when people make excuses otherwise, like it's just an attempt to moralize, right? That this is somehow something more pernicious than anything else within our society, right? This type of work that does can use up a person's body, right? Well, that's worse than like doing construction work and like a person being broken down by the end of their life, right? Instead, the problem is capitalism. Instead, people are forced. We should be focusing on people being forced to go into positions and do things, compromise themselves if they feel they're being compromised, because they have to, because they got to put food on the table. Let's address that, and let's not pretend that these individuals, these sex workers, are anything or any less good citizens than the rest of us. Leave it there.
Okay, thank you for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Next up, we have Soy Pill. Soy Pill, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm not like some grandstanding religious moralist on sex work. I do think it's real work. I think people should have the opportunity to do it. I think that the problem is that we see this overcorrection from the left where we're fighting against like these strict, uptight, crazy religious people who are like, if you even do this, you should be like stoned in the middle of a square. And obviously this is insane, but the overcorrection comes from there should be no regulation on it. Everyone should be able to do whatever they want. And I think the problems that come with that is that we ignore that one, a stigma does exist around it, and while I wish that stigma doesn't exist, most people aren't prepared to deal with the fact that society as a whole does stigmatize this, and they think, with the ease of access that I have to be able to do this on my phone to start an OnlyFans, I'm just going to go do it, and there won't be any consequences down the line. I don't think everyone is fully informed enough to understand what it means to get into sex work. I think that legalization comes with problems. You can see that everywhere where we've legalized prostitution, we have an increase in sex trafficking because we have increased the demand. And so there are more legal arguments for why we should try to regulate demand to go down instead of legalizing it. I obviously don't think it should be criminalized because these people need to be able to go to, police when their pimps are, doing something awful to them or they have some problem. Yeah, it's silly to criminalize it, but like we see that the complete deregulation and proliferation of this does actually come with a lot of consequences. In the same way that gambling right now, theoretically, yeah, there could be a world that I would be happy with where everyone would gamble responsibly, but the ease of access and the lack of understanding of consequences of gambling has had demonstrably bad effects. So I think that the left has gone a little too far, and while sex work is work, we need to kind of curtail and understand the actual consequences of what it means to just have a blanket legalization of this.
Okay, thank you for being here, and we'll get into it as we go. Next up, we have Stardust. Stardust, are you with us today?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
You're a
Yeah,
little
you're
quiet.
a little low.
I'm quiet. Okay.
Yeah, did you do that thing where you shrink down to like 2 inches tall and then you're like in someone's pocket again?
That is not something that I do. I don't know where you're getting that from. No, that's not something that I do. I don't know why. Anyways, hi. I hope you can hear me better now. If not, I'll keep yelling. You are quiet on Wick TV's stream.
You are.
It's just yeah,
And we can't see you either, FYI.
Okay.
So.
Okay. First off, let me just address the topic since we're on the topic.
Me and Star
and then
are
I'll
friends.
fix this, okay?
I think she's just
So,
playing into the joke,
my
or
stance
she's
on the
flustered.
whole sex work thing, I think I'm a little bit more aligned with the soy pill on this, in that like yeah, obviously people are going to do sex work. Personally, I think that like the average person in an ideal society where people don't feel like pressured to do it, and where people don't feel like they're doing it out of coercion, or they don't feel like they're desperate to make money and that's why they're doing it, I do think that like the amount of women who would actually willingly go into it without all of those factors
Vash,
would
it
be
seems
a
to be me
very,
and
very
Star
small
versus
amount of
Prime
women.
and
I think
Abby.
like the
I
vast
think
majority
Erudite's
of
on my
women
side
would
as well.
not go into it. Secondly, I think we do need to acknowledge that because a lot of women, even if we're not even talking about prostitution, if we just talk about OnlyFans, a lot of women get into that kind of stuff because again they're in a moment of desperation, and they find that this is maybe an easier way to make some money. They realize it's not that easy, but by the time they've gotten into it, they've sunk cost fallacy, right? They've put too much in there.
Oh, penny peddler.
So obviously,
I
there
wish I
needs
could
to
tell you
be
something now, but I
protections for
have to
sex
wait until a
workers,
month from
just
now,
because like
or maybe longer.
believe that most women would not choose to be in it. Doesn't mean that there shouldn't be protections for sex workers, and doesn't mean that there shouldn't be some form of legalization. But I do think that we've definitely gone too far to the like, oh, everything's okay, just let anybody do whatever they want, whenever they want. I do think that there are some like adverse effects to becoming more normalized. So.
Okay. Not so Erudite will be with us as soon as she gets set up, but hopefully that'll be soon. But we'll just throw her in here when she gets here. I guess my first
Well,
question then.
can
Oh, go
I
ahead,
give us,
please.
yeah. I don't need you, Wick. Sorry. No,
I've heard that
no,
before.
but
Jeez. Okay.
so I just had stuff that I could already address, so I'll just start with that. To our friend Soy, hello again. But you specifically talked about legalization. I can't speak for Abby. We haven't talked before this time, so I don't know where her positions are, right? But like sex workers, at least the ones within the political space, when they talk about bringing their profession to the light, it's not legalization. They're talking about decriminalization, specifically because legalization involves like regulation that you will end up putting up some barriers that certain sex workers won't be able to clear, and then those people who fall outside of the legal box will then still be criminalized, right? And just and who designs that box decides who is outside of that box. So instead, they want decriminalization, where the law won't be after them. Yeah. So secondly, you talked about. Yeah, and this is something that Star also said. You talked about like the consequences of the profession. This is something a talking point that always comes up. That I don't think that these people have really put much thought into the consequences of their actions. One, I think this is a kind of a sexist argument because I think this is like aimed at women. I'm not calling you a sexist. I'm not calling either of you sexist.
Well,
to
in
be clear,
your
right?
defense, I hate women, so go ahead though.
Okay, fair. All right. Well, with good
Fair.
reason. With good
Go
reason. They
I
asked
was
for that,
sexist in
but
the other way, but yeah.
but like again, I'm not calling these individuals sexist, but I think like the genesis of this argument, which they're repeating, tends to be that like these women, they haven't really thought about it, right? They don't understand what the consequences might be if society can call you a quote unquote whore, right? Yeah, they didn't. It never crossed their mind. So I reject that. I think these individuals are making choices, and there are people who make bad choices all the time in all professions, but in this profession, that's when we seem to care. That's when we bring out this argument. It's not deployed in any other profession.
Well, can I push back on this? Because I before
then,
you address the third point. Well, we're
sure,
gonna if we move on to the
but
new
you-
point, we're
be
not gonna
really
be able
quick.
to get
No,
off
be
this
really quick.
point.
No, be really quick. I promise. I promise.
Okay.
I just want to Stardust, and then I'll be right back to you.
Okay.
Stardust. First of all, hi. I haven't seen you in literally years. I
You
hope
still
you're doing,
haven't.
well, Star. I still
Because she
haven't.
can't turn on her damn camera.
I'm sorry. I'll put it on. Just give me a second here.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. But in any case, just a tiny point about like, only a small amount of women go into this profession, as if that means anything. Only a small amount of the world population goes into any particular profession, right? It's only a tiny fraction of individuals who go into whatever profession you might name. So,
Willingly.
well, it doesn't matter if it's willingly or not.
No
Yeah, the same
coercion.
thing as well,
It's
right?
crazy.
Most people wouldn't willingly work any job, right? Like if they could not work a job, they'd not work a job. We understand this. Labor, right, isn't people's goals. It's like putting food on the table. It happens everywhere, but only in this profession do we have the moralization.
I want to open up the discussion a little bit.
Okay.
I know Soy Pill had some things to say, and I want to hear from everyone else. Go ahead.
I want to specifically address the idea of like, with no other profession do we talk about the consequences of this. I think for a lot of moralizers, I agree with this. They're like, this is the only thing they'll point to. But for me specifically, and I'd like you to address me, and I'm not saying like you're ignoring me, but in this discussion, I would say that about a lot of things. I would say the same argument for people that are being pushed into being a trad wife. I'd say, look, there's plenty of people that can enjoy this. I think if this is your real decision, you can go and do this. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting this. In the same way, I don't think wanting and actively choosing sex work is fine, but you have to understand that this comes with consequences of you are now developing zero skills for the long run if you ever decide to move out of this. In the same way that sex work, trad wifing is not
true.
I'm not okay.
You're talking about trad wifing.
So I'm talking about trad wifing. So like the reason we used to have alimony payments is because it's like, look, you got divorced 20 years into doing nothing but taking care of a home, and you might not be able to find work in that specifically, and you don't have like a resume to build up and go work on your own. So your husband, who is the primary breadwinner, is going to be the one who's helping you out. Maybe you can get back on your feet after then. In the same way, I might say, look, there's plenty of like transferable skills, in trad wifing insofar as, yeah, maybe you could become a cook or like a daycare worker, but the point is that you don't develop in the same way other people develop careers. Sex work in and of itself, one, it's kind of got in a lot of ways expiration date, right? Because it's like after a certain point, people are like, I'm not really looking for, I know there's GILF stuff out there, and I'm not trying to yuck your yum, Prime, but I'm just saying for the most part, the primary people that are making the most money is like 18 to 30-year-olds, there's men and women. I'm not trying to say one or the other, but it's like this is where most of the money is and most of the time is, and if you invest into that, I don't think a lot of people are prepared, not because they're like, oh, I'm just so dumb, I don't understand that society's going to shame me, but it's like, hey, like this is a commitment, and if you make this your career and you're not one of the like very few people that makes millions of dollars off of it, you will not have the transferable skills afterwards. Now, you could do it as a side hustle, you could do it as like, you know, just a thing that you try out, but the point is that in the same way that you're going to face certain societal stigmas that shouldn't exist but do, you're also going to not have as many like career transferable skills. And I say this to
You're
every
doing the exact
position
same thing.
like this. I would say the same to someone who's like, I want to be a minimum wage cashier for the next 20 years. It's like, okay, but like, what happens in 20 years if you want to switch? Like you're kind of screwed. So that, I think a lot of people are being not pressured into this, but some people are
Well,
coerced.
no, let's talk about that just real
But
quick.
people don't.
Well, just real quick,
Go ahead.
like, what do we consider sex work to even be? Are we considering OnlyFans to be sex work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like
there are levels
OnlyFans,
of it. There are
like
levels of
OnlyFans,
sex work.
prostitution, pornography, any type of like using sexiness to make money in a sense. Same like if we were also considering like
work? Would that
stripping.
okay, so stripping would be sex work. Would using sexiness to make money. So would you consider a Twitch booby streamer, right? To be sex work?
So I'm kind of 50-50 on the whole Twitch situation. On one hand, it's like I feel like a lot of those rules unfairly target women, but on the other hand, there's a lot of children on
I might not
Twitch, and
say
I
the
think
same to an Olympic
promoting it
fencer,
directly to
but I would say the
children
same
kind
to
of gets
like
very
a professional
problematic
football
very
player who's
quickly.
not in
So
like the NFL.
definitely putting some type of regulation on who can and cannot view it type of thing. But
That's not
again,
the
that
question. But the question is whether it's sex work, and it absolutely is. Booby streaming on Twitch,
mhm.
100% sex work, absolutely.
It is sex work, but whether or not it's that's kind of where my line is just where
Yeah.
children can very easily access it without an adult
Well, that
noticing.
would be more of a discussion on who can access sex work rather than who can be a sex worker. I don't think anyone here is going to advocate that kids should be sex workers. I think we can all put that out of the discussion at
Mhm.
hand. I guess
Yeah, I would
what
say that it's a gradient, Wick. I would say it's like sex work seems to be kind of a gradient, right? There's obviously a huge difference between somebody who is posting like Instagram-esque pictures onto their OnlyFans versus somebody who's quite literally walking at night, as a hooker, trying to pick people up or trying to get picked up. But regardless, like I think the same obstacles kind of apply, right? There's a stigmatization there. There's probably going to be a gap in employment that you can't really put on your resume very easily. Whether you build
Relies
transferable
on,
skills,
is
yes, you
Straighter Aid a
can
booby
build
streamer?
transferable skills, but how are you going to market that on a resume with the current, with the current way that the world works, right? So
I got some ideas, but go ahead.
Do you guys think I'm a sex worker because I like do thirst traps and wear tight shirts?
no.
I'm just curious. I don't know.
Unless you
I don't
have an
think booby
OnlyFans.
streamers are
If you
sex
have an
workers.
OnlyFans for it,
I don't
yeah.
have an OnlyFans,
Yeah.
no. Despite the many
Yeah.
calls.
So
I think the problem here is that like we're conflating sexualization with sex work, and like yes, sexualizing something like a woman who dresses in a bikini and does a Carl's Jr. ad where she eats a disgusting sloppy Joe and it drips all over her. Like, is that sex work? Not even really, despite how sexualized it
really,
is.
no.
Like she's an actor in a commercial, and like her primary line of work is not selling sexualization. Selling your body is what we all do, especially if we do physical labor. But I think the sex work comes from it's like, are people primarily using your content to derive sexual pleasure? And even booby streamers, it's like maybe people are watching because they think you're hot, but they're not like 24/7 jerking off to it in the same way they would to porn or like OnlyFans. No, 24/7, 24/7. I'm not saying they don't jerk off. Look, I've seen a lot of stuff about certain streamers, all right, and I understand that people jerk off to them, but it is not the primary form of what why people access that content, even if it is the fact that they're hot, right?
You
Like,
can't make that statement either. Hold on. So I have a hot take on this. And it's funny because when I first presented this hot take years ago, I was in a room, a panel. It was on my open panels way back on when, right? I was on a panel of a bunch of people who said, "Oh, they're really pro sex work," but then when I said this thing, then we found out, yeah, it actually wasn't the case. Absolutely, what you just described is sex work, 100%. My take is a simple definition, right? That sex work involves using sexual titillation, right, and however in whatever form that is to get remuneration, right? Whatever that remuneration might be. That might be money, that might be services, that might be some sort of social benefit. But if you get something back out of that, right, and you purposely do that, right? This is an action being done
So you
rather
would
than
say I'm
simply
a sex
exist.
worker then?
One second, one second. One second. So if you are specifically doing this, right? So if you like use, if you flirt with an officer while trying to get out of a ticket, right?
Mhm.
Well, then you've just done some sex work, right? That's an act of sex work. Um, but at the same time, that same woman, right? If an officer approaches her, to give her a ticket, and he decides not to give her a ticket, but she in no way tries to flirt with him, right? She's just existing and happened to be attractive. No, sex work was not done.
Okay.
Like people don't seem to like this definition because then it implies that you've done some sex work in the past. Lots of people have, but they don't want to admit that.
So yeah, when I post like a shirtless thirst trap at the gym, that's sex work necessarily, even if I'm not necessarily making money off it, just like to
It doesn't
garner
need
attention.
to get money. If you're trying to boost your Instagram channel, then yeah, that's a level of sex work. Like
Beef
Sort of
Supreme, are
said,
you
there are
talking about on his
gradients to
side?
it,
Because I
right?
can hear him
That makes you
fine.
feel better about it.
Thank you for the
There's quote
$2.
unquote low level sex work, but it's sex work.
I don't know that I agree with that definition.
I,
I know you don't.
I don't think it matters ultimately.
I
We can like argue the semantics, but this isn't the point of like whether or not we should. The left has gone too far in it because like we agree on what the consequences of those things are. It doesn't really matter whether or not we call it sex work. It's just sexualization, right? Like that's not the point of this discussion. Or am I wrong?
No,
No,
we have
I
to decide what it
just
is.
just real quick, I think that the focus of what I want to discuss tonight, and maybe you guys want to discuss something else, but the focus I want to discuss tonight is not just titillation, right? So not just even if we want to go with your definition, Prime, of low level sex work, but where
The
it
correct
crosses the
definition.
threshold of you're actively seeking out money in exchange for helping someone to come.
Oh, real quick. Also, I got a super chat prime that says fix the audio on your stream side. I think you're streaming now, and someone's having audio problems or can't hear you right. And now I can't hear you.
Yeah, now we can't hear you. But we can see Stardust, maybe? If her camera loads, perhaps? Great tech issues. Wonderful. Okay, that said, I guess to question to Abby and to Prime here, what regulations currently exist on sex work that you think, whether it be OnlyFans or whatever, that you think we should get rid of? What current
there's one that
obstacles that people have towards sex work do you think we should be able to get rid of?
There's one that comes to mind almost immediately that I feel like a lot of even pro sex workers jump to right away. It's what a lot of people call the Nordic model, where it's basically legal to sell sex, but it's illegal to buy sex. A lot of people see it as like a good solution to support sex workers and to just help them stay out of trouble and also help like human trafficking victims. But I think what it has actually done, it is forced people into it's just into doing it in a more sketchy ways. There have been several stories of places who implement these laws and then violence against sex workers actually increase because they're just now having to, instead of doing it like on a pier or somewhere lit, they're now doing it in a dark alley because now these people are extra scared, or the people who are buying sex are now extra scared to get caught. Um, and so that's why like a lot of these models that people tend to harp onto do a lot more harm than they do good. And I think laws need to focus more on protecting sex workers and allowing them to do their work because the demand is never going to go away. The everybody is going to like want sex in some capacity. At least I can, maybe not everybody, but the vast majority of people, I guess I can say comfortably, want sex in some capacity. And a lot of people view the sex work industry as icky and dirty, and I think the laws that we have in place have made them icky and dirty. And the consequences that come from the sex work industry, I don't think come from the sex work industry, they come from the stigma behind it. So if we do our best to get rid of that stigma, uh, people will have a lot less issues. So those type of laws just do more harm than good.
Well, I'm curious, Abby. I agree with the
Uh,
idea of like
just
we should get rid
testing.
of the stigma. Oh
Sorry,
yeah, we can
just
hear you now.
testing. Yeah, can you? I mean,
Yeah,
on
you're fine.
my
Let Soy Pill go
my
though,
YouTube.
please.
Sorry, my YouTube side. Am I still beeping? Let me know. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious if you're then, are you not, or are you for the Nordic model? Because specifically the reason I ask is the studies that I've read that show that it increased the sex trafficking are from Nordic analysis. And the problem is then that you say, oh, well, demand's always going to exist. Yeah, people always want to have sex, but demand for sex work increases when you increase the supply by legalizing it, which also increases the sex trafficking, which is why, like, on paper, I'd be like, yeah, of course we should legalize it. But it seems that doing so is actually going to increase victimization of sex workers, or at least as far
See,
as the studies that I've read have said.
I don't think legalizing sex work like increases demand or even increases human trafficking.
Okay,
It
wait.
actually
Well,
just
you're
gives
objectively wrong. It's true that it does that everywhere it's
I'm
tried.
but here's the thing is it doesn't increase human trafficking, it increases people's ability to report it. There have been several studies even more recently, I can pull it up if you would like me to, that show it just gives people an avenue to report it. So the numbers do go up, but it's not because there's more victims, it's because more victims are able to speak out more comfortably.
I believe, and I can look further into this, that the way that these human trafficking numbers are reported are like literally when they're caught coming into the country, not people reporting it because they're now okay with going to the police. This isn't a like case of, hey, we've, decreased the threshold for what we would consider sexual assault and more people are willing to go out and report it. It's, hey, we've noticed more people trafficking women into the country in boats and ships and crates because of this. But I could be misremembering this. I don't believe it's just people are more willing to report it. Although I do, again, if that was the case, you would see this when they decriminalize it first, not when they start to legalize it. I believe the studies have accounted for that as well. But I would like to see your counter study on that if that's true.
Yeah, it was New Zealand. It was either New Zealand or the Netherlands. Yeah, they saw a decrease in violence, and yeah, it just brought more cases to light. It didn't increase it, at least as far as the study could see, it did not increase human trafficking. It just made it easier to see, made it easier for victims to step
Okay,
forward.
so I'm double checking here, and I'll link this in the thing. But this is on the World Development. This is from 2012. Does legalized prostitution increase human trafficking? Again, I might be misinterpreting this, but it's not. Hey, this is increased the people who are willing to report violence, which is a good thing, by the way. This is the inflows of human trafficking is increasing, which is not. Hey, more people are willing to go like report it. It's like, hey, we've notice there's more human trafficking coming into the country because we've legalized it, which makes sense. I mean, again, I don't want to like appeal to intuition, but all this is saying is, yeah, once there is now a legal and easy way to make money off of this and they don't have to hide as much, it is now incentivized monetarily to have more people come in, legal and otherwise. And unfortunately, that does increase human trafficking, which is not good. And now, obviously, if we could find a way to stop that
Mhm.
completely, then that's not a
Yeah.
reason against sex work, but it seems to be the case that this always happens.
Yeah, but, like, it just in my opinion, well, not in my opinion, but just, like, in general, human trafficking just thrives in, like, underground when it can't be seen. So just to me, like, when yeah, the one that I had brought up was the Netherlands. When they had legalized or decriminalized, excuse me, prostitution, they did see an increase in human trafficking numbers, but it was just because more people were able to step forward.
Okay. I'm curious, Prime and Stardust, right? I want to get you both in the conversation here. Stardust, what do you think that the stigma that we have against sex work and sex workers is a good or a bad thing, and why or why not? Stardust, what do you think?
Okay, so I'm pro stigmatization, but like maybe in a different way.
What does that mean? Yeah,
Uh,
elaborate, please.
yeah. So I'm not really into like the whole like stigmatize it because you're a whore, right? Like I don't know, I feel like that's really nasty and really demeaning. Um I'm more about like the stigmatization because it is an industry that it like has a lot of predation in it, that has a lot of like people who again are coerced or who are doing it out of desperation. And honestly, like I think that there should maybe be more stigmatization um on the buyer end, right? Like that rather than the seller end. Yeah, a huge thing is like, the vast majority of sex work that is done is mostly, trafficked or coerced. And again, even in countries where it is like, not that case where that's not the primary not well it is mostly but like in places where people generally have access to doing OnlyFans, even then a lot of people will go into it because they're desperate because they are maybe already have a job and they're not making enough
How
or
is that different than
yeah.
going into any sort of work, like the military? A lot of people go into the military because they have no other option, right? Like
Yeah,
they
but the
feel trapped.
military
How
actually
is how what is the
sure the
what is the
sure the
substantive difference
military
between
yeah.
sex work and becoming an OnlyFans model and becoming a airman or
The
a soldier?
military is something that you can put on your resume, and also it's something that generally will give you like connections, I feel. You can use as a a stepping stone to other things, right? To higher
Just real quick,
positions,
guys,
things
I'm
like that.
rereading. I think she's just
Um
kind of pulling the thing. I'm not trying to be
Whereas
mean to
like
her, but
sex
she's
work
pulling the idea that
generally
it's just increased
OnlyFans
reporting out of
models
her
are
ass. Like,
not
I
making
don't think this is
connections in
true,
the
or
same
it's from a different
way.
study.
It's not really something that you can put on your resume. The skills are not marketable in the same sense. If we're going to be frank as well, like destigmatization of that industry is not going to happen overnight. That is going to be something that people, if an employer sees that on your resume, they're going to look at that and they're going to have some sort of thought about it, and that's not going to change in the next 20 years. Sorry to
Well, is
say.
that
So
because of the sex work industry, or is that because of the stigma that we currently have behind it? You can't put it on a resume because it's illegal, because everybody thinks it's gross and disgusting. But everybody
yeah,
thinks it's gross and disgusting
illegal,
because it's illegal.
but even if it weren't illegal, I highly doubt that's something that you could put on your resume.
Yeah,
Highly
unless you
doubt.
were going to the like sex work industry, or you managed a big like where you were a pimp or like maybe like a madam, and
Yeah.
it's like, hey, look, this proves my managerial experience. Like this is what I was talking about, where there's not a lot of transferable skills, and I know this is not
There is
exclusive to
transferable
this.
skills. You're just
Yeah,
saying
but
that,
it
right?
maybe and
There's
it's
not a
maybe
lot
not
of. There are
right
some, yeah.
now.
Oh, there are differences make there's not a lot of it. Like, so, like, why are we even playing this game, right? Like, as if we care, whether some people happen to have a full resume, right? Like,
I care.
Yeah.
people go into
Just because
jobs,
you don't doesn't
all
mean
the
that
time.
we don't.
People go, sorry, excuse me, Stardust. People go into jobs all the time, right? That have these exact same list of drawbacks, but we don't have panels about those, right? We don't have endless discussions about those particular professions. We do it about this profession,
Yeah, but Prime, I
right?
already
Because
addressed
in
this.
the
This is a
end,
double standard. I agree, but if you're addressing me,
okay, but
I
you're
would
going to still
also
engage
say,
in it.
but no, because if you're addressing me, I also think those jobs should be limited. Like, hey, let's try this out for like a couple years as a stepping stone. And unfortunately, a lot of people will choose those jobs as like, I'll just do this for the
Why?
rest of my life, and I advocate against that. Yeah,
Why? Sorry. Why are
I would say the same thing
people on
about
the
travel
left
wise as well,
deciding
right?
what other people should be doing with their lives? Right? Like,
I'm not
why are
deciding.
we?
It's advice
Uh,
and what I think should be advocated for. And if
oh,
people,
okay. It's just advice. Oh, all right. Okay. Well, if it's just advice, then your advice is noted. But we this type these discussions like do maintain the stigma that we were just talking about before. But Stardust wants to
Sometimes
pretend,
stigma
oh,
is
I don't
good.
really care about, I don't want to put on
Sometimes wait,
stigma,
no,
but
sometimes
I'll
stigma is
do
good.
everything but call them whores, right? That's what you're
No, wait a
doing.
minute. That wasn't my position. My position is that it should be stigmatized just in a different way. But yeah, absolutely. Sometimes stigma is good. I'm sorry, but
Oh,
you're
okay.
like
So I've never,
you're like
I apologize. You're even worse. No, go ahead, please.
yeah, I am worse. I am absolutely 100% worse. Yeah. No, sometimes stigmatization is good. If you're like, freshly 18 or 19 and you aren't really thinking okay, you're desperate. You've got like this dead end job that's not paying you enough and like you think like, okay, I'll just do this for a little bit to make some quick money. Like
We don't care about this as a society. We don't
we do
actually care
care about
about
it
that.
because
No, we
it
don't,
because
right?
employers lift
We'll,
you up.
Well,
Employers
if you
Let
go,
Stardust
wait a
finish
minute.
real quick.
Let me
Stardust
finish.
finish her
Let me
point, then you
finish.
can respond.
let me finish. If you go into a career later on, they will do a face search on you. They will. I'm sorry, and it will come up. Okay, it will limit your opportunities in the future. With all the technology that we have now, it is something that will be on your record, whether you think
A
it
lot
is
of
or not.
OnlyFans models just don't show their face though, to get around that because they know they're not gonna do it forever. If you just hide your tattoos, hide your face, you're completely
Right, but this
anonymous.
is to Star's point.
Unless you
It's
do,
that
like, a
you
butthole check.
have to hide it. Like that you have to
Oh,
like do this
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
restrictions because that stigma is going to hurt you in the future. Yeah.
And
people
if you're a consenting adult, then who cares?
Yeah, people go into alternative lifestyles all the time, right? They do things that lowers their marketability, and we don't stick. Well, I mean, we may stigmatize them to a certain extent, but like that is their choice, right? And if you're on the left, you should be for expanding people's choices. That
Wait,
yeah,
I don't.
some people don't want to go into the corporate world
What
or
if they want to be
whatever.
cops, Prime?
Wait. Yeah, but Star. Just to be clear, I don't know what you
What if,
think.
hold
At
on,
least
no.
me, but
What if
hold-
they want to be a cop, Prime?
Sorry, I don't know why. I don't know what the point of this question is. I don't
Okay.
understand what you
Would
Well,
you
mean.
not
he's saying, given the
stigmatize
stigma against
someone being
police
a cop?
officers, do you think people should like at 18
Oh,
decide to become police officers?
I say all cops are bastards, but like whatever, they
I
can
don't
still
think
be cops.
8-year-old should
Do you not think
have
that's
a gun.
stigmatizing cops, though? Why don't we let them be free and
Oh,
choose
no.
what they want?
It only matters when the profession that you're doing is actively hurting people. Two people who are engaging within sex within a room, and they are adults, of course, completely consenting. That's their business. And back to Stardust previously, right? Like, yeah, you're talking about freshly 18-year-old, 19-year-old individuals going and making
Yeah,
something
I
that
agree with
may or may
chat.
not be
Calling
a
an
poor
18-year-old
choice. All right.
fresh
Well,
makes
yeah,
me
that
a
sounds
little
like the
uncomfortable.
military. It sounds like individuals going in there
The
who
military can still be
lose
used as
their
a stepping stone.
who can literally lose their life, literally lose their
They
life.
If you
can.
lose both, if you
Um,
lose both of your legs in war, which many people have, what do you do for work after that? And we all know how the United States views veterans.
Wait,
well,
So
wait,
it's
don't worry,
wait,
absolutely
Abby.
wait. Yes, but
Well,
we
don't
wait.
worry,
We
Abby.
agree.
We'll
Wait
thank
a
them for
minute,
their
if you're
service the
No, no, no,
entire
no.
prostitute,
time.
Wait,
So that's
Abby,
wait
good.
a minute,
Abby, we
wait a
agree
minute.
with you though.
Okay,
This is
I
Star.
need to
Star. Wait, tell me if
I
you
need
agree
to
with
be
this,
able to
Star.
respond to this.
But Star,
I
would
need
you
to
agree that like
be
you
able
would
to
have the same precautions and warnings and like say, yeah, we shouldn't illegalize going to the military, but like we should probably like make sure that people aren't just jumping into this willy nilly, and that's kind of what it seems like the left is pushing for.
They
Yeah.
recruit like
Let
16 and 17-year-olds
Yeah.
in high
Wait.
school, and
Sure,
it's
they
We are
like
do.
saying
to go
that's
Wait a
to their
minute.
death.
Wait a minute.
bad,
We
right?
even
gotta
then,
give
And
it
it
to
is
Stardust.
bad.
Stardust,
Right.
Like
guys, I need to be able to respond to this. I'm sorry,
go
but
ahead.
if you're a prostitute and you're walking
Please
around
fix your
in like a
mic.
in if you're what fix my mic?
Your
you're
volume
really
is still
Really
low.
hard
quiet.
to
I got
hear.
you up
It's
as
really
far
hard to
as
Hey,
hear.
I have you
as
at
far as I can
200%.
Okay. Okay, so if you're a prostitute and you're still like walking around at night, right? You can be murdered, and guess what? Like you don't get benefits off of that. So, like at
Then we
least
should
there's
give them
like a little bit
benefits
of
then.
difference.
Good idea. I agree.
Okay, but there's still, I think the stigmatization there is a good
Which
idea,
you
Or
are,
honestly.
yeah, that'll
well,
be like you're
Prime
being the problem there.
Star,
You're
tell
saying
me if
my
I'm talking about my
stigmatization might be
ass.
a problem. Okay, stop stigmatizing them.
No, Prime.
No,
The
I'm
idea
saying
is that like
stigmatization is a good thing.
the idea is that when people are jumping into this as just like a look at the ease of access and look at like again, I'm not pushing back against you specifically, but there are narratives that come from the left that say, hey, sex work is real work, do whatever you want. And the problem with that is, yeah, do whatever you want encompasses things that I think you guys would disagree with, like becoming a cop at 18, joining the military at 18. These things aren't like inherently illegitimate, just like sex work at 18 is not inherently illegitimate, but a lot of people are jumping into it without thinking of, hey,
Yes.
you know, I might get my legs
Getting
blown
married
off.
These
Hey,
women
and
can't
becoming a
I'm
figure it out.
trad wife at 18,
Your
right?
mic is way
Getting
better.
married.
Good. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
way better
thank you. Getting married. The great example from Soy Pill from earlier was getting married and becoming a trad wife at 18. Right? You are not building skills that you can transfer with you. And then your husband can divorce you. And alimony isn't really something that people, seem to get anymore, or not as frequently. So guess what? You're fucked. You're out of luck. And you've got like however many years you haven't been working. So
People are allowed to make mistakes. Let them
right,
do
right.
that.
We
Right?
agree with this, Prime. But again, the point that I maybe you're not addressing, or maybe I'm not elucidating enough, is we think that there is an openness and kind of this like laissez-faire, lackadaisical attitude to sex work as a counter to the very bad Puritan
What's your
moralist right.
prescription?
My
Sorry,
prescription
I'm
is that
interested.
18-year-olds should not be allowed to start sex work at 18.
Ah,
No, I don't
okay.
believe we're saying this. What we're saying is that maybe like this is again a little incongruent with my position on like specifically prostitution and how it increases sex trafficking and how we need to do that. But if we're just talking, let's say OnlyFans or like Pornhub or something like that, the problem is not that they can do it, because we don't think that should be illegal. The problem is that a lot of people on the left are kind of treating this like it's just any other job. And what we're saying is, just like the military, just like being a trad wife, it's not just any other job. There's, yes, the stigma that we think shouldn't exist, but there's also the consequences of this that aren't due to the stigma that do exist, that I think a lot of people are just kind of brushing off as, no, it's just like any other work, right?
Elaborate on those. So I think Stardust mentioned something, Prime mentioned something about harm and things like that, and you just mentioned like consequences, negative consequences.
Sure.
What are some of the, outside of the stigma, what are some of the negative consequences to either the sex worker or society for going into sex work?
I don't know about society. I mean, like specifically the sex worker, you can look at this. This is true of a lot of men in sex work, of like how this can damage your body. It's not like, oh, you're used up, but it's like, hey, the kind of drugs and like aesthetic work that you put into yourself to make sure you can like maintain an erection for 8 hours, the kind of stuff that you'll do for like, you're starving yourself, like the bulimia, that sort of stuff. Yeah, all the stuff I'm sure everyone on the panel would agree is bad. But the problem is like this stuff is tied and more like not inherent, but more likely to appear in sex work, and a lot of people don't like address all of this stuff before they go in. It's just, hey, this is just like any other job, I think, is the narrative we're pushing back, when it's like, yeah, the military is not just any other job. You're locked into a contract for years and you might get physically harmed. Hey, OnlyFans, it's a job, it should be legitimate, but it's not just like any other job. Yes, there's the stigma the society puts on this, and I don't like that, but also if you do this full time, you are not going to have the same transferable skills.
Like put out a PSA. That's all it is, right? Like, is that what you want?
It's not a PSA, but it's pushing back against the, hey, that sex work is real work, and that's when the conversation ends kind of narrative that I hear a lot.
Okay, so all right, so what you want then? So instead, all we have to do to satisfy Soy Pill, right? Different from Stardust here, right? I understand your positions are different, but to satisfy Soy Pill is that we say sex work is real work that has consequences.
I think that doesn't really give everyone informed, but if you're saying like, I think you understand.
I mean, we can expand on that, but still,
yes,
that's
there needs to. I don't want this to just, hey, it's just like any other job. I don't believe that's the case, and I think that is a lot of often what we hear.
Okay,
and that's the whole point of the debate of this goes too far. Yes, I think people need to have more informed consent.
Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, we'll do that for you, Soy Pill.
Yes.
We will, because other people
work.
haven't put the thoughts into this themselves. They couldn't have had these thoughts themselves, but we'll do that. We'll put out a PSA.
Okay, well, wait.
And I'll tell them that sex work is real work with potentially disastrous consequences.
So I'm smelling a hint of sardonic, and that's fine because that's what we do here. But to be clear, like in the case of the military, do you agree that like people who are 16 and 17 in high school are preyed upon by recruiters who will lie to them about what it will be, who kind of like lead them into this profession, knowing that, hey, it's probably not going to be the way we described. In fact, you're probably going to not enjoy it the way that we show it to you, but we're doing this because we need you. And it's kind of like this consequence that comes from I don't know, a kind of obfuscation from the people. Right. So in the same way, I think that sex work does this a lot. This is how you get a lot of grooming into sex work. This is how you get a lot of and I don't believe that the people that are joining in mass OnlyFans are getting this right amount of informed consent from not just the left, but like anyone in this industry is like as a whole is really the structure needed to like make sure that people who join this get what they're getting into. I don't think exists.
We'll do that.
That's actually a good question, and I'm very curious, and it's a great point. I think Soy Pill's bringing up.
Hey, Winky, if you're actually bulimic,
Abby, do you think
seek some sort of therapy? It's really awful.
Something wrong?
I'm sorry if that's something you're dealing with.
If I, 42 years old,
I'm sure you're beautiful.
Go to
please don't
high
hurt yourself. It hurts
where
your throat.
there are 16 and 17-year-old girls,
it's not good
and say,
for you.
hey, ladies, I know you can't do it yet, but as soon as you hit 18, I want you to join my OnlyFans connection thing. I'll be your manager. I'll help you set it up and things like that. But I want you to go and fuck people on stream for me when you turn 18. And I'm going to these colleges offer to these high schools and offering them bonuses, signing on bonuses for when they turn 18. Turn 18, I'll give you $1,000 up front to sign up and do this many streams with me
Anthony.
On my
Leave
OnlyFans.
it to someone in my audience
Have I done
to agree
anything
with me
immoral
the
or
most.
wrong
Hell
in this
yeah.
case? And this is Abby and Prime.
Yeah, recruiters going to high schools in general have always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, unless it's like college recruiters or like industry recruiters, you know what I mean? It's
An
always
industry
kind of creeped
recruiter.
me out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you
an
just said.
industry recruiter. I'm offering you a
But like
legitimate job.
military, see, but that's like, but that I think that does
Well, no, okay,
like
what's the difference between me doing that and someone from, like, fucking Walmart or Amazon or an IT job or any other industry? If there is no
yeah,
difference between sex work and other work, why do you have the reaction you do when I say, "Hey, I'm going to offer
Jesus,
these
Vash,
young
you
ladies
know
a
Andrew
chance to
Tate
be on my
victims? I don't know if that says more
OnlyFans for
about you
yeah.
money,"
being
these
close to
16 and
them or
17-year-old
more
girls. Well,
about
let's
the
say at
fact that
18 to be
he
clear,
just messages
right?
so
Why
many
is that
women.
ick to you,
Mhm.
whereas someone from Amazon, it wouldn't be ick?
Yeah, so I was sorry, what soy pill? I agree with what he was saying, with just like the like recruiting young women, there are like coercion and everything, and there is that in just about every industry, and there are consequences to every single job. And at the end of the day, sex work is still sex. You know what I mean? And 16 and 17-year-olds cannot consent to sex. And I also don't think they
Certainly,
should
but I'm
be,
not asking them to do sex until they're 18.
but you're asking them to sign a contract to consent to sex, which they
Once they're
cannot do.
18, they won't sign it. I'm just giving them the info and directing them towards me. Yeah.
Still weird, but that's like
It
that
is.
is an
Yes,
entirely
Why
that's
that's a
the
is
bit
it
of a
weird?
straw man
Why is it
argument. You're
weird?
making up a fake scenario.
No,
That's
No,
not
it's
no,
It
not.
gonna
might
no, this
I'm
not
happen.
isn't fake.
be.
This is a
It
real
might
thing that
not be.
happens.
Yeah.
But they're not going to a high school.
No, they are.
Maybe.
They
Yeah,
are. This
They
maybe.
literally
are.
does happen, especially in places.
If
This is what we're
sex
Then
work
talking
it
is
about.
should
work,
be illegal. And I
wait,
don't think sex work recruiters or military recruiters should be in high
if sex
schools.
work is work, if sex work is work, then what's the difference?
Yeah, wait.
But there are consequences to sex work. I am not going to advocate for children going into sex work. I'm like, that's not
Yeah,
even a
but
Wait, but
if
that's not
conversation
sex
I'm
what's
work is
comfortable
happening.
if sex
having.
work is work, then what's
Yes,
the
but that's
difference?
why we
Okay.
need that's why we need to bring it to light so children are not going into the sex work. That is like the coercion
Wait,
that
What?
we
wait,
want
wait,
to
Abby,
get
Kids
wait,
rid
at
slow
of.
down. Wait,
16 and
guys.
17 are allowed to go work at the ice cream shop.
Well, hold on. Wait,
Okay?
but
And
also, wait, Star. Don't even have to go that far. The idea is not that children will be pulled into this if sex work is legalized. What we're saying is, in the same way that a recruiter from Amazon or a military recruiter, whatever the spectrum of how bad this job is, cop to, I'm just doing something nice for my co-op.
athletic recruiter.
These people go to high schools and say, hey, you look like you might be interested in this job. And the question is, why is an Amazon recruiter or an IT recruiter or even a military recruiter any different from some guy going, a pimp going and saying, hey, when you turn 18, do you want to work for my sex company? If sex work is real work in the same way. Because again, we think it should be work, but this is fighting against the narrative that this is just like any other job when I don't think
Well,
it is.
going back to what
It's
you were
not.
saying before is like the consequence, or what both of you guys were saying before is the consequences to a job. The level of consequence behind working at Amazon and the level of consequence behind becoming a sex worker are vastly different,
Right,
right?
that's
I
what we're
don't.
saying.
Yes.
That's our argument.
So like but my argument is like we're talking about recruiters going into high schools here, I thought.
Right,
So
which is a thing
high
that happens for
schoolers,
all other jobs, to be clear.
but we shouldn't be promoting it. We
Why
shouldn't be
It
not?
doesn't happen
promoting
for all
children.
other jobs. Hold
So
on,
you're
hold on.
pro
Stop. Okay,
stigmatization
stop
then.
that.
You're pro
Stop that. It
No.
doesn't
stigmatization then.
happen for all other jobs. No,
Yeah,
no,
they're
we don't have.
You
literally
ever had a
career,
job
No,
like
there at
it's a
high
no.
career
school?
fair.
Stardust is trying
Yeah.
to sneak things
Okay,
in. No,
Had a
one, we
career
already
what
fair.
know.
about
Hold
athletic
on, hold on.
recruiters?
No, I got you. So
Football
1 second.
recruiters.
Yeah, and they shouldn't be allowed in either.
Why?
Especially because how
I
those
think
their
one-to-one is
bodies get
sports
destroyed.
recruiters.
Once again, yeah, no, yeah, the sports recruiters they're awful too. I don't the way we have individuals destroy their bodies for football for people's entertainment. Yeah,
I agree
that
with that
seems
actually.
a problem to me. But in any case, right? So not all jobs go into high schools to recruit, right? We have limits on these things all the time, right? Like we don't have slaughterhouses, right? Which is legitimate work going to high school for
I'm sure in
recruiting, right?
rural
Like
areas they do
we
this. Why
everyone
wouldn't they?
here. No one here, because the guys keep trying to sneak this in.
They have programs for
Abby,
agriculture workers.
Abby
Hold
or
on, let
I,
Prime
Abby
finish. Let
or
Prime finish.
I
Let Prime finish. Go ahead,
Abby
Prime.
or I have not implied that there are no negative consequences to these things, right? You guys keep implying that's what we're saying. We've never said that, not from the start, right? So we can say that there are, we can design, I don't know, a set of rules to say like what jobs are appropriate to be advertising in a school and what aren't, right? I'm sure there's lots of room for agreement there. So we don't even have to like spend our time discussing this. We get that. Abby understands that. You understand that.
I don't think that that sex work is just like any other work. I'm sorry, I just fundamentally disagree with you guys on that. It's work, but it's
Hold
not
on.
like any other
What does
work.
that mean? Can you explain what that means? What that means to you when you say that? Because I think there's a disconnect here. You keep saying that, but we keep, at least I keep saying, I can't speak for Abby, right? That sex work is labor, right? Not like any other work. What does that mean? I'm not exactly sure what that phrase
Well, I
means,
mean, there's
please.
a there
Yeah,
the
every
reason. I
single
mean,
work is different and comes with a different level of
but
consequence.
no,
Like,
but
just
sex
Yeah.
work
comes
is
with a level
sex
of
work is
consequence
different.
does not mean it should be illegal. Like,
Yeah.
military
No,
comes like,
I'm
yeah,
not
an
saying it's
Amazon warehouse worker
my
comes with a certain
prescription
No,
was
yeah,
level of
never
we
to make it
understand that.
illegal. My
What do you, what,
prescription
sorry,
was
what
never
do
to
you
make it
mean by
Well,
that?
illegal.
I want Stardust
Wait
to
a
answer the
minute.
question.
Yeah,
I want
Stardust,
Wait a
yeah,
minute.
tell us. What do
just
you
real
mean
quick.
by sex
My
work is
My prescription was never to make it illegal, by the way. Okay, that's never been my prescription. But
This is a
I
small
do think
offshoot, but
that
whenever I
it should
stream
just be
dual stream
stigmatized.
to Twitter,
Right.
the
there
viewers go
should be
way up,
some
and
stigma,
this just tells me that
the lens
Elon
of
is totally
purity,
fudging the
right? But
numbers
from the
because I
lens of
know
like,
there
yeah,
aren't
you
like
are
double the
sinking your
amount of
body
people
into this.
watching my
You are
stream
sacrificing your
just
body,
because I
and
also went to
just like athletic
Twitter
recruiters
because I have
I
far
think that's
fewer
probably the
active
most
viewers there. It's just
accurate
because if
comparison
someone
is going to be
glances at it and in their
athletic
feed that counts as a
recruiters.
viewer, it's so stupid.
You
What a
are
fucking
sacrificing
hack.
your body.
Anyway,
You
back
are
to the
giving
stream.
several years of your life up. It's going to be the youth, the best years of your youth probably that you're giving up for this. That like as far as like transferable skills, we're gonna have to like be really creative to make that work, right? What was the question for me again? I
okay.
forgot what the
So
question was.
no problem. So I was just asking because you keep saying I don't think sex work is like any other work. I disagree with you guys. Can you tell me what you think that phrase means? Because
There's a
I
reason
haven't
why you
heard.
guys were
What?
so objection. You guys objected so much to WIC going and recruiting people from high schools, right? There's a reason for that, right?
No, no,
If
no,
it
no,
were
no.
just like any other job, then we wouldn't have this big objection to it, would
It's
we?
Yeah,
not
no, no, that's the thing I'm trying. Hold on a second, one second. That's the thing I'm trying to ask you about, right? You keep saying that we're saying it's just like any other job, but we keep saying, hey, yes, we acknowledge that there are consequences, externalities that happen when you're engaging in sex work. We keep saying that, but then you keep replying, I don't think sex work is like any other work. So what are you hearing from us?
I think that you guys are acting like these consequences are just like any other job's consequences, and I don't think that they are. I think they're significantly
We
more.
keep saying no. So you're wrong. Okay, so let me just state that now. That's not what we believe. Okay.
Well, Prime, I think the confusion comes from the fact that, like, I was bringing up some stuff like, oh, lack of transferable skills, or like the downstream effects of
There are
being able to find a
transferable
job.
skills.
I didn't say there were none, but the point is, like, yeah, that pushback is like, okay, well, do you even agree on what the consequences are, or that it's not like any other job, right? Like, is the only consequence to sex work
So no,
just
we
the
don't.
kind of stigma that we all agree we should get rid of, the bad stigma of,
We're on the
hey,
same
you're a
page.
whore,
We're on the
right?
same
Like, is
page.
that the only consequence?
We're on the same. No, we're on the same page. There are other consequences. There are predation here, right? Like you could start into sex work, but then be transitioned into sex trafficking, right? Like these things like exist on the spectrum, and sometimes you don't even know when you've like moved from one area into another. That's absolutely a thing. Your content can be stolen, and yes, you can face social consequences. I don't know, there's a whole list of these things. We
Okay.
acknowledge all those things, correct,
Sure.
Abby?
yeah.
Okay, great. So then we're on the same page. We don't have to argue about this anymore.
Okay. But then I guess our question
Sure.
is, do you think that there is this isn't you guys clearly because you've just clarified, but is there kind of this narrative that does come from the pro sex work crowd, which is the left, which is what I'm a part of, that does kind of brush over these things? Because I have that perception. I don't have a study that shows like X amount of comments on this is going to completely ignore the fact, but like this is what we're here to push back against, and it seems that you guys are also on board that at the very least those consequences exist, but then what? Like that this isn't really ignored by most of the people on the left, or
I want you to answer that question, guys, but then I got some super chats to read, and we'll go. And I have some other questions for Soy and for Prime.
Shrunken
and the rest.
Machine. You're
But
not
answer
useless.
his
Computer
question,
engineers
please.
can work literally any industry. Also, Grant,
What was the
I also
question?
caught that transition.
Yeah,
Do
I'm
you
sorry.
guys
What was
acknowledge that on the left there is a significant sort of yes queening of sex work that kind of overlooks its flaws and polishes over any harms that it might do to the sex worker?
I think maybe, possibly yes, only because there is such a strong stigma behind sex work as it stands now that nobody wants to have these conversations. Nobody wants to have the conversation about what could come from sex work because nobody's talking about getting into the sex work industry. Once we start talking about getting into the sex work industry, then we can have a broader conversation about what that would look like. But as of right now, it just looks as it looks now because we aren't able to have those conversations, if that makes sense.
Okay. Let me get through. Or Prime, do you have a different answer or the same?
Um, uh, I can't be responsible. Just like our friend Soy pushed back on me because he felt I wasn't speaking him to directly, right? If that was the case, I do apologize to you, Soy. I didn't mean to do that.
No, that's fine.
So I also can't be responsible for whatever people say on Twitter. So whatever, I don't care.
Okay. $5 from Zonia TV to say turn up Stardust or else. Look, we fixed the audio. Thank you for the $5. Pondering Politics for $20.
Josiah.
Speaking of the debate subject and soy pill, you should ask him about the time he demanded his audience check out his hog on his live stream.
God damn it.
Startling
Jesus
me.
Christ, what the
Called
fuck?
out,
No,
called out,
okay,
called
okay.
out,
All right, let
called
me
out,
explain.
WW.
All right, so I was doing a stream with Charlie and we were looking at those young Republicans who had all those racist text messages. And Josiah is not looking because he's walking around his house like an irresponsible Zoomer with no attention span. And I say, check out this hog, referring to one of these incredibly obese young Republicans who is a horrible human being. And he dropped his phone and broke it. And he's referring to that. So I would never show my penis on stream.
Fat
He got
shaming?
so excited.
You're
he
just
dropped
fat
his
Sounds like a
phone.
shaming.
fake
Okay.
story to me.
I would fat shame,
It
yes.
sounds like it was okay.
Yeah. No, I own that completely. I am at least a little bit fat phobic.
Okay.
Fair enough. $20 from Zonia TV to say we've seen Wick get paid to go shirtless before. How's he gonna put this experience on a resume? Look, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done, gang. That is a quality that any potential employer would love to have in their employee. That's all I gotta say.
Unironically, if you pulled like a Sasha Grey and like licked a toilet clean, I think as an employer, I would see that as like oh, you're really willing to go the extra mile
I
for
would
that
hire
paycheck.
you
So
immediately.
yeah,
No
depending on what the
interview
job
needed.
is, like if you were like, oh, you want to do like
Sounds like a go-getter to me.
sewage
Yeah,
clean, yeah.
And
I'm
to
not
be
even
clear,
joking.
anyone who drops $50 and tells me to take my hoodie off, I will take my hoodie off live on stream. That is an open
Okay.
offer to you, dear audience.
As much as
And
I
then,
pushed back with Prime's definition earlier, that's sex work. I'm sorry, you're a sex worker, Wick.
apparently, according to Prime, but $5 from Zonia TV.
That's actually not according to Prime. That's not
That's just
that's not my
definitionally true. You're taking
No,
off
no.
your shirt for money.
True.
No, hold on 1 second. Because this is misunderstanding my position. Now I'll explain it very quickly, right? Hey, soy pill, your toilet is clogged, right? And so you take a plunger and then you unclog the toilet. You have
Okay.
engaged in plumbing. Are you a plumber? No, right?
Okay. I agree with this so
Performing
far.
an act, yeah, related to a profession doesn't mean that you are of that profession. Just that you've done the act. That's it.
Yeah, no, I agree with this, but again,
Yes,
like
that makes sense.
I don't think that like like flirting with a police officer is sex work, but it doesn't matter. It's semantics.
$5
It's
from
not
Ace.
semantics.
$5 from Ace to say, well, maybe $5, maybe 20. Let's see. It says it's a false dichotomy that you can't remove stigma and educate sex workers while decriminalizing. You could. Oh damn!
We killed
I'm
him.
sorry. You can legalize sex work and increase their opportunities in the wider world. New Zealand in 2003 legalized it and set up a board to help social workers find work. Thank you for the soon to be paid whatever amount of money. Okay.
Or do they pay in like New Zealand dollary dues or something?
No, they're like my
Tolerate dues.
my phone's broke and I will pay you as soon as I get to my computer type deal. And I'm taking him on his word.
I owe you one super chat.
Yes, basically. $5
Look at
from
it, yeah.
Zonia TV says to Abby. Even in the state of Nevada, sex work is highly stigmatized. Legalization doesn't make the stigma go away.
Well, so in Nevada, it only takes place in very rural areas. They have it set up very specifically to keep it away from the public, which we can argue whether or not that's good or not, but it's because they're still not talking about it. They keep it as far away from people as possible and as quiet as possible, and only in certain counties. And even in the counties in which it's legal, some of them don't even have brothels.
Okay.
Thank you, Owlishness. $5.
$5
Show
from
hog
Will
or
from
end
Texas.
stream.
Cops are rightfully
I
stigmatized because
legally
ACAB,
would
but
have
they
to
have
end the
many
stream
transferable
before I should
skills to
hog, but
jobs
thank
such
you.
as ICE agents
Do I have
or
like a
gang
pig or
members.
something up here?
Thank
I
you.
don't.
Indeed.
$5.
Damn.
Indeed. Shout to
Real.
you. Shout to you.
$5 from Robert Paulson. Prime. Would you support your daughter getting to sex work after high school? Yes or no? Why?
Absolutely. I support you in anything you do, baby. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
Enough.
that's consistent.
Mm.
Zonia TV for $20 says there can be a difference between stigmatization and discouragement. We can discourage younger people from getting into risky, short-lived, low economic mobility careers while encouraging them to pursue the opposite. And then $5 from Glitterbell to say, Wick, please tell Zonia to stream more. Okay. Stream more, Zonia. Okay. That said, I guess the question I have for Stardust and Soy Pill here is that, do you worry? Well, to start us specifically first, do you worry that your stigmatization, even though I know you're not going the you're a whore route type thing, do you not worry it makes life harder for sex workers in general who do have to go that route? And what is your plan
Yeah.
to like, do
Real
you
quick, guys. Speaking
find
of
that the
hogs,
stigmatization
there's
is
a
worth creating a
software company called
harsher
Post Hog, and these are
work
their
and life
ads.
environment for people
Injured
who
by
find themselves
prices, you may
in
be
sex work
entitled
for
to
whatever
Post
reason?
Hog.
Yeah, I think that's why, like,
I hate these.
wanted to very, very, there's a huge distinction between like the stigma that somebody has experiences like when they do like sex work versus the type of stigma that they experience if they choose like to do something really useless, right? Like career wise, right? And
Like
you know, one
streaming,
is
yeah.
like yeah, yeah, sure. Um, so like, so other people were super chatting, calling it, oh, discouragement, based on like the career prospects, things like that. If that makes it feel better, I guess, then I'm fine to go by that, right? I obviously don't want to make it
Ad
stigmatization like a
hog?
thing
Come
where
on,
it's like
man.
a barrier for people trying to get out of it. I think building skills and getting out of an industry like that if they choose to, I think that should be
Let me just ask
encouraged,
you this,
right?
Stardust. Let me
Yeah.
just ask you
Mhm.
this: if you had a daughter or a son who is in high school or elementary school, even, and you found out that their teacher was doing sex work on the side, would you want that teacher fired?
It depends, I guess. It really depends. I think probably not.
Same
But
question to Soy Pill too. After,
yeah,
but
Yeah,
go
like
ahead.
in most cases, no, of
probably
course
not.
not. But
Yeah,
it would the
yeah,
line that would need to be crossed is if they're like child baiting, like pretending to be a little student and like filming in the
No, they just have an
classroom. Right.
OnlyFans that
I'm
they
saying
operate
this
on the
is like
side.
the specific thing that would need to happen. Otherwise, like, yeah, if they're doing it on the
yeah.
side and this doesn't interfere with the work, it really doesn't matter. It's the part where they
Yeah, and
bring it
I think
somehow
also
into the classroom.
advertising it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're advertising it like pretty openly on their thing, then that would be where the issue is, right? But if it's like something that's completely separate from like their life as a teacher, I don't see the issue there,
Yeah.
So
Okay. Interesting. Erudite, welcome.
Hi. Sorry, guys.
You all good? You got here just in time. What are your
Because to
thoughts?
wrap up,
Sex work.
I think it's very interesting listening to like the prime side, especially where you've both defined sex work as essentially an utterly normalized behavior that up to includes flirting with police officers, but also you agree that maybe we should caution people about it. What exactly should we be cautioning people about when it comes to flirting with police officers, and how exactly is that risky? What's the risky work there?
They
Sure,
might
I
shoot you.
can. Well, first of all, it's nice to see you, Erudite. I haven't seen you in such a long time. I hope you're doing well, wherever you might be. Okay. So everything is within the spectrum, right?
Kyla is currently in the motel
Just
that I'll be
because you
staying
do
at
an
tomorrow.
act doesn't
She
mean
says it's bougie,
all
and I don't
acts have
believe
the
her.
same consequences, right? And we label it something, right? Within that spectrum doesn't mean they have the same consequences. There are could be some level of consequence to flirting with a police officer. I don't know. Maybe he gets angry that you did that, and then he like ups the price of the ticket. I mean, sure, whatever, right? But then there's also consequences for like actually like engaging the profession or like doing like full service escorting. Right? There are many more consequences. We can
Which
understand that
ones would you
different.
caution? Which ones would you caution then for? Like if you're talking about the actual work and you said, okay, we can add some like military style caveats, which version of that would you caveat and what would you call that type of sex work so people can differentiate that from all the normalized sex work that is apparently
Don't
happening
be
in
mean
this
to
world?
Prime Owl.
Escorting. We don't have names for these things. Like I don't know how I
Okay.
would have to do that.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, this is where like the classic leftist like absurdism where you're like, I'm gonna solve stigma by just stretching a word out in a way that nobody's ever going to use. But also, I agree, sex work has dangers and we should caution people about it. But maybe we don't need to caution people about 50% of the sex work. I guess only 30%. And I don't know how I talk about that specifically. Like it's just like it's this like concept conservatism that's so annoying that leftists do. I think one of the issues that we like run into that I was
Just coming
listening
in
to when I was
swinging.
listening to you guys is that we want to treat it like it's just any other work, and it isn't, right? There's a reason why you guys
No,
are
we don't.
Well,
uncomfortable.
hold on. Well, they have already conceded that they don't want
No,
to
we
treat it
don't.
like any
Yeah.
other
Yeah,
work.
we
Okay,
To be
don't.
fair.
what?
They've
Okay,
You
already
didn't listen to that
granted.
part.
Yep, granted. Yep,
Yeah.
I had to check in. So then what? How is it different? Like, how do you guys differentiate it? Like, what's meaningful to you here?
I think we'd already discussed
Timer,
just
Abby.
like the different the different like outcomes that come from each job or the different risks that are associated with each job. Um so sorry,
What job's
what was the
comparable?
question?
I guess like what job is comparable in risks to it?
I think we already discussed like
Yeah, hands up to
what
the
was it,
sex
pro
workers in the
football
chat.
players?
Drop
They're
your
putting
OnlyFans
their
links.
body and their minds at risk for other people's entertainment. Um
But most people
so
would like idealize a pro football player, right? Like to the star's point, if you put pro football on your resume, people are going to be like, "Wow, that's really cool."
We've
exactly. And
decided to
then
do
it's
that
also
as a
like
society.
10, 15 years ago, you couldn't put YouTuber or streamer on a resume, but now
You probably
you
still can.
can. Yeah, but there's you can't. I mean, yeah, you probably couldn't put YouTuber on on most resumes, but if you're trying to go into the film industry, I have 10 years of experience working the
Person,
camera
Prime
on
said
my
he would
YouTube
support her.
channel. Now that is a legitimate form of work
So
I
I
because
don't
guess
it
think it's
didn't
quite the
happen
same.
overnight.
so one of my issues I think when it comes to sex work is I feel like we have to like lie to ourselves and act like it's a lot like any other work. It's just like stigmatized. And it's like it feels like when we do that we like lose the complexities of all this, right? So like I don't think decriminalization stigmatizes it. And I heard a super chat come in. I don't know if you granted that or not, right? But obviously my position would be criminalization obviously probably increases stigmatization, but it certainly won't eradicate it if it's decriminalized. I think it's stigmatized because we come from culture and history where like what St. Augustine said that if you even marry a woman, you're marrying death, right? We come from a society that views not just womanity as bad, but particularly the sexual element of womanity. I mean, John Kellogg did a good job of making sure that sex was the scariest thing for any like Northern American evangelical Christian. And so when we talk about like the stigmatization and stuff, I think one of the things that I get frustrated by on the left is when I hear people be like, let's just like have sex work ungirded and like, yeah, okay, we can like give them like the little caveats and stuff. And it's like, I don't even think we begin to sort of understand the caveats that we even need to offer these girls, right? So my personal experience, and of course there's no data on this, at least that I'm aware of. I'm friends with some of the largest OnlyFans content creators on the planet. Every one of them has serious sexual dysfunction in their intimate relationships. They have a lot of trauma around sexuality, and a lot of them have major issues in just having normal, healthy, intimate sex with their partners because to them sexuality has been commodified so much, and there's a sort of like dissonant tension around the monetization of their body that just moving into a
This is where
state
I
of like
jump in and I'm
intimate
like, which creators,
sexual
Kyla?
pleasure
That's awful. Which
is very,
ones? You're
very
friends with
difficult for
them
them.
and we're
I don't even know
friends?
how you begin to quantify
Oh my
this
god,
or
I
how you
need to
begin
meet
to
them and
talk
hear
about
about
women
this
about
awful
this, which is
thing.
why when I say like sex work is really unique from all the other work, I don't even really like to compare it. It's not like being a pro football player. It's not like anything else. In the same way that like I think being a child media star isn't like anything else. You can't even begin to try to compare it to things. And so
Yeah.
the ungirded access or like promotion of it is, and I know that this is somewhat taking you guys back. I understand you guys have kind of talked your way through this a little bit, just catching on my opinion. I think is really dangerous because it's built on a premise of an ideal world where we say it's just like any
No,
other
Kyla's
work.
not lying.
And it's like,
I know what she's
that's not
talking
the
about.
world we live in, and it's not self-evident that will be the
It's
world that we
not.
live in for the next like 200 to 300 years, if ever, right? I don't know
Yeah.
if people will ever totally get over sexual stigma. I have no idea.
If I can, I would love to like piggyback off of you here. I think you
Or
brought up some great
dare I
points,
say,
and I do think that there have
hoggyback.
been studies that like sex workers,
I'm sorry.
they beyond just like STI risks, right? They do more often suffer from like chronic GYN pain, chronic bladder infections, chronic injuries of that type, right? And then on top of that, I think it's one of these things that I do
Kyle, I
heavily
don't know
agree
if I
with
have the
you
bandwidth to. I'm
on
sorry. Maybe
regarding like
email me though.
the closest thing that I could compare it to is the like pro athlete thing, but even then it's not really quite the same, right? If I were going to compare it to any of them, I would compare it to that, but like even then you're correct that it's very different from that because it is inherently and people are going to disagree with me on this, but inherently it is a very personal thing that you're engaging in. Like most people only expose that part of themselves in a very personal context, and they are engaging in the commodification of that personal act.
Do you
they're
think
Wait,
that was
real quick.
depersonalizing it.
Wait. Can
culture or
I
because of
can I really
nature?
quickly push back against my own side?
Yeah.
Can Kyla and Stardust agree that getting 700 concussions a year or going to the military is worse than being a sex worker?
It's worse. I mean, getting 700 concussions a
Going
year, that
into
would
the
be worse in a
military is
different
worse than being
way.
a sex worker? How
In,
so?
in terms
I
of like
guess-
the negative
what do you mean by
consequences, the worst possible. Not like it's like you shouldn't do it, but like if we were
Like
on a
worse to your
spectrum of the
body?
worst possible consequences, I think the military and football is probably worse than sex work.
For your body, sure. Yeah, but like, yeah, sure.
Military,
I
I
would say
think
for
for
your
sure I
body.
would grant.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay,
know
just
about
checking.
professional
On a
athleticism.
Just
personal-
by
because it
that
almost sounded like
Yeah.
you were like, I mean, it's still different. Like it almost sounds like it's even worse. It's like, oh, come on, like let's be real.
I would say
No,
the
it's
military is
just
worse.
different.
I would say the military is worse. I actually don't
Yeah.
think professional football, like, yeah, you've got the CTE, but you've also got like the fame and glory and money. So it's like,
Yeah.
That's
it
not
Okay,
balances
that's
out.
not
Most
worth the
sex
brain
workers
damage of
don't-
bringing a
as
gun
someone
to a
who's-
club so you can shoot
I didn't
at
say
the
it's better.
bartender.
I didn't
No,
say
I
that it's
understand.
better. I said that
understand.
when you're scaling these things, a sex worker typically doesn't even get any money. If she gets fame, it's usually infamy, right? So it's negative in that way. And the prospects of her like future career, she is subjecting herself to like really perverse types of like stalking and face being
Yeah,
stolen.
but this
in a way that
happens
just,
to
like,
like professional football players too. Like most of them don't become famous. They
Hold on.
go out, they have medical problems, and they become like Uber drivers because they don't make a lot of money because they're not the big
But
quarterback.
again,
or
Sorry,
the
when you
would
say
say there's
linebacker.
professional,
a-
I'm assuming you're meaning a contracted football player who's making. I think the minimum is still over 100K a
Yeah,
year,
but for
right?
how
Whereas the average
long?
sex worker
But for
is
how
not
long,
making.
and then what happens to them after? These are the same arguments I have against sex work, or as of its consequences of like, yeah, a lot of professional football players, most professional football players don't live glamorous lives for the long run. They actually get totally fucked over.
I agree. I
Sure.
think the issue is that, like, I suspect if I polled the average OnlyFans sex worker, they also don't live a glamorous life. They typically go
Yeah,
into
that's
sex
what I'm
work
saying,
because
yeah.
they're poor already and trying to make ends meet. So it's
Right.
like, which is better? Probably still being a professional athlete because at least you get like fame for a little while. I don't even think
That's what I'm
most
saying.
sex
Like
workers
most of those people
enjoy the work,
don't get the fame,
right? Like
even.
most don't.
But you still
Yeah, but
have
at
a
least they like
transfer.
football. They enjoy the lifestyle while they're doing the football. Most sex workers don't even like the work that much, right? They like resent their
Do we know
fans.
this?
Wait, I don't
Yes,
know about that.
wait, yes, a lot of them are like, I don't like love it.
No,
but at least,
now
you
it's
know,
not now it's a lot of them. Okay, great. So, lots of people. Sorry, hold on, before I get started, did anyone else want to jump in? Because I got a lot to respond to. So I want to.
Yeah,
Sure.
before
Go ahead,
you-
Yeah,
Brian.
before
I
you do
just
that,
I
just
want to
real quick.
reiterate. I do want to reiterate. Like again, I think if I were going to compare it to any profession, I would compare it most to pro athletes, right? Because I think that has the most similarities. But again, even then, we acknowledge just now that there are unique obstacles that the pro athlete faces, and there are unique obstacles that the sex worker faces. But I do think that like one thing I don't like about the left is we try to like erase how personal like being physically intimate with somebody is, and I feel like the commodification of that, of being physically intimate with somebody, like I do think that there are problems with that. I mean, like there are studies as well that show that like PTSD is like a pretty high occurring thing in sex workers. And mental issues are also pretty high occurring in sex workers. So I
okay.
So
mean, yeah.
just real quick, just some fact checks
Yeah.
here, right? Like If you go in the military, your mortality rate is actually lower than a lot of people would think. It's your lower mortality rate than a
Well, it
civilian.
depends if there's a war, right?
Well, obviously, yes, a
Yeah.
war would
Say
Oh,
that
yeah.
again. Say
make
that
it
again
go
in
up.
4 hours, Wick. Let's see what
Yeah,
happens.
and Venezuela, when we invade Venezuela.
even look, I'll grant, even during the Iraq War, okay, your mortality rate was generally lower. So I don't know if I'd even agree that going into the military is more dangerous.
I think we're
or
normalizing
deadly
saying
to your
like it's
body
just another
than being,
profession,
like,
which is
a
something that we're
streetwalker or
against,
something.
right?
It's not just mortality rate. Like, it's also like we had a ton of veterans coming back with broken bodies, right? They were alive, but they were severely maimed.
Or
And
the
then
sexual
they had,
assault rate for women in the military is like incredibly fucking
oh,
high.
absolutely. Let's
What
never
do you
forget
think the
that,
sexual
right?
assault rate is for people who are sex workers?
It's super high in a
Probably also
criminalized market. It's very high in a criminalized market. Yeah, that's why we should decriminalize it, right? So they can
Wait, do you
access
think in a
protection
decriminalize that
that the people.
is
Right?
there
Isn't
is
this
there
great?
evidence
First
for
name,
that?
last name.
That
Everyone's like mostly
decriminalizing it
intelligent. I like
significantly
that.
reduces
Thank you for the
sexual
$2.
assault?
If they have, I don't have a study right now, but I
Okay.
believe that if they have access to the legal justice system, where like calling the cops doesn't necessarily mean, hopefully, that they aren't victimized by the cops as soon as they show up, when they can impose consequences on the people who might try to sexually assault them.
But isn't there more human trafficking in decriminalized states? Like I remember
We already
Swipel
covered
citing
this,
this.
yeah.
And
But there's probably less
to talk about sexual assault.
There's probably less
if you're bringing in
assaults happening
human
in
trafficking
the
is
thing.
different. Sorry.
Sorry,
Well,
because
hon.
when we're talking about human trafficking in the relation to sex work, I'm assuming we're meaning sex work, which means those individuals every single time they're engaging in sex work are also being assaulted, correct?
No, hold on, one second. This is important. I'm glad
Am
you
I
brought this up.
misunderstanding something?
One second. Hold on. I'll explain it to you. So I'm glad you brought this up. This part's important, right? When we're talking about sex work, that is different, though along the spectrum, than sex trafficking, sex slavery, right? Sex
Sure, but
work.
if you're talking
Hold
about
on,
decriminalized, hold
let
on,
me,
just I
let
know
me,
you're about to say
let me
I know,
respond.
I
Let me
understand.
No,
I'm gonna rebut this point.
no,
I'm gonna rebut this point, and then you can
I'm going to
second
finish.
point.
I'm going to finish, and then you can make your point, right? So,
Okay.
Hello, Erudite,
sex
can you
work, right, is consensual.
froze,
Make
Erudite.
2 points.
Sorry, sex work is consensual, right? And sex slavery, right, or sex trafficking, that's not consensual. Now, what I will grant, though, these things are on a spectrum, right? At some point, does something become not consensual, right, or become consensual?
Kyla with
These
that
things happen. There are some
hotel
gray areas
Wi-Fi,
here.
motel
But
Wi-Fi.
when we, and I don't want to put words into Abby's mouth, but when I'm talking about sex work, I'm talking about consensual sex acts. You are correct if you're saying doing sex trafficking, right? That person is
The
being
longest he
raped
gets to
like every
talk
time.
is because Kyla doesn't have connection.
Erudite, are you with us? Hello.
I am not willing to write off so
Decriminalized
much of
states.
like
So
Let Erudite
decriminalized
try.
states.
Hold on, let
Hello.
Erudite try
Okay,
because
I guess
her
not.
connection's bad. But go ahead, Erudite.
Yeah, what are you in a motel? She's in a
Can you
motel.
I think so.
can you guys hear me? Hello.
Now we can.
Yeah.
I'm on
Yeah.
premium
Yes, now
internet
we can
too.
hear
That's
you.
part.
Premium
It
you
makes
guys
it
can hear
better to
me?
turn off your camera to decrease your bandwidth.
Why are you shaming the sex work that she's doing by engaging and using her body to promote her image?
No one-
Erudite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one on this panel is currently doing sex work, I promise you. Okay, Erudite, go ahead, please.
If I
Please.
flirt with Wick so that he gives me preferential treatment,
Okay.
is that sex?
We can hear you, Erudite.
Yeah, apparently. Okay, I'm just going to keep the camera off for the bandwidth. So the issue that I'm kind of taking with this, so I understand that in a decriminalized state, if you exclude all of the increased sex trafficking, that those individuals probably do experience less SA. And if they experience the same amount, they can at least report it. And I would just grant you that, of course. The issue is that it feels like a slightly dishonest analysis because if we're talking about decriminalization, I don't really feel like we get to exclude all the sex trafficking victims because they are still being sexually abused. And I understand why you're treating them differently because they're like different niche groups. But if we're talking about like broadband, the cost of sexual assault and stuff like in a decriminalized state, of course we have to include sex trafficking victims. If you're calculating sexual assault, we can't just be like, oh, the group that's constantly getting sexual assaulted, well, we don't include them because it makes our analysis look worse.
Okay, 100 euros from Zyrian. The stigma lowers participation. I don't give a fuck about an individual, but once a thing reaches Twitter, reach Twitter, then we have problems. I don't know what you
Twitter?
meant. Twitter, maybe. You really think big players won't exploit the fuck out of this? I'm not going to wait for Comrade to come smash Big Vodka.
Huh?
What the fuck?
What kind of
Sorry.
super chat? So,
Speak your
100
truth.
euros,
It's a
and you will
great-
put
it's a
respect
great
on his
super chat.
name, okay?
It's a great super
Speak
chat.
your
Okay,
Absolutely.
truth.
Wow.
Speak
That's
your
like
truth.
whatever tier. That's like a
I
whatever.
mean,
tier.
like,
That's-
let's try to decipher it.
Okay.
We have a
So-
team of smart people
okay,
here.
Can I just say I don't want to. I don't think it's fair. Even like I'll take it a step further than Not So Erudite did. I don't think it's fair to like discount so much of the sex work industry just because they happen to have been coerced or forced into it. I'm sorry. I just don't. They're sex workers too. Sorry. Like I just don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So-
Oh, now you're a champion for them. Okay. Thank you for that. Sorry. Before I go, because I have a lot to respond to. I want to let Abby
Well,
in.
yeah, don't
I
worry, I
a lot
got
to
you.
say.
Abby, you had some things to say, and I know Soipa wanted to say some things. Then we're going to go to Prime, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, did you say victims of human trafficking are sex workers? Is that what you said?
I mean, if we're talking in the West, right? Like it's a gray scale,
But
right?
I
Or
mean,
like a
even if we're
gradient,
not
right?
just if we're talking globally,
Yeah.
human
They're
trafficking
sex workers.
victims,
Yeah, I mean, they're
not by
prostitutes, right? Are
choice,
they
though.
not?
Hold
But
on,
yeah,
Stardust,
but
hold
still,
on.
real quick.
wait,
Stardust,
wait,
hold on,
actually,
please.
if we talk about it, well, let's look at India. Let's look at India, right? People will
boy.
get kidnapped, and they will. I'm sorry, it's like my easiest example that I can think of because I know more of it. But people like in some cases get kidnapped, they get sold into sex work, and then those women continue to engage in sex work willingly because they don't know anything else. So I mean, in a
would it be
sense, yeah,
fair, though?
initially it was forced, right? Initially it was forced, but then they have continued over the span
All
of
you're
years, over
saying,
the span of an entire career,
all
Yeah,
you're
but-
to
saying
engage
is
in it
that
willingly.
all you're saying is something that I've already acknowledged, right? Is that these things will exist upon a continuum. That there
Yeah,
is
but
no
I'm not
hard.
discounting any of the
Yes,
So
like
I
they're
you're-
all
I
sex
hold
think
on.
what
No
you're
one's
trying to-
discounting them. No. Just one thing. I'll say one thing
There's-
very quickly. I do apologize, right?
Yeah, I
But
do.
one thing, right? That's also saying just like what those conservatives did, like a fucking CPAC, like years ago, right? That's also like saying, well, African slaves, right? I mean, they were just like another form of contract labor, right? Like that's obvious.
Slaves are just
No,
farmers,
we
you
can
know,
actually
that are coerced into
understand
farming.
things are two different things. I certainly wasn't discounting the assaults previously of people who are within sex trafficking, right? Not doing that at all. All I was trying to do is make that distinction between the two. That one is consenting and the other is not, and it's a big fucking distinction there. And so, like, let's not. So we can't
But is it
pretend
really,
these things are the
though?
same
Like-
thing. Yeah,
Can I
actually, hold on.
interject for
Hold on. Was slavery, right? Was that the same thing as any other worker?
I'm not
Was
talking
that
about
different?
slavery, though.
We're talking.
I'm not
That's
talking
what we're
about
Well,
talking
we
about.
slavery.
are.
I'm talking about-
Sex traffickers
Yes,
that
we
are
are.
sex
People
trafficked are
we're
slaves,
talking about
right?
compensated, though. They're still compensated, right?
Yeah, but they're
Sex
like they're
trafficking-
no, not
hold on,
really. I mean,
hold
their
on.
like
Is your-
waves are
is
like
your-
completely
hold on, no,
garnished
just real quick.
and like
Is your position that sex traffickers, are not sex traffickers, but the people who are sex trafficked because they get compensated, we should count them?
I mean, obviously they're counted as victims, right?
but yeah,
like,
but
I
they're
still think
basically
that as
slaves,
a-
Star. Like
Yeah, sure. But
Okay,
does
but
that
the
make
whole
them like
point
not
is,
sex
like,
workers?
should we
Like-
consider the depredations done to a slave group, right? A group who is under coercive slavery, the same as we would someone who goes into the task just by free choice. Like, it's the difference between someone who is forced to build a house, saying, if you don't
But
build
it's-
this
but
house,
it's
we will
not
kill
that-
you,
this-
versus
okay, but the
someone who is like,
distinction-
I want to be a construction worker.
and wait,
but
can
what
I
I'm trying to
add
say
something real
here-
quick?
What I'm trying to say is that the distinction here, especially if we're looking like in the West again, right, is like there are people who might initially have been coerced into it, but then have chosen willingly from that point forward to engage in it, right? Like, or there are people who felt like desperate and then continued to engage in it, right?
The
There's
point,
a
wait, but Star, the reason
so-
we brought this up is because I mentioned the sexual assault rate for women in the military, and someone said, well, don't you think sex workers are sexually assaulted? And the point is, well, yes, but if we're counting in that group of sex workers that are sexually assaulted slaves, it's kind of throwing the idea off that this is like inherent to the occupation, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, like slaves are violated. Yes, like by choice. Now, whether or
Sure.
not promoting that sex work, which I think, like we said, if we legalize it, we do increase the influx of slaves. But
Yeah.
this is not the work itself that is promoting sexual assault. I think that's a different case of people are more likely to be sexually assaulted, not the slaves, but the people who are like, hi, I'm willingly engaging in this, but people like overstep my boundaries, right? That's a different category, right? Is that what you're saying, Prime?
Yes, basically, yes. Thank you.
Okay, fair. That's fine. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
Abby, I did talk over you, and I
Yeah,
apologize.
Abby.
It's so awful.
Abby, go ahead. You had something that you wanted to ask, please.
What was it? You were talking about sorry, I'm so bad at names. Star. You were talking about um people getting kidnapped and forced into sex work and then they continue on into the sex work industry. I think
Well,
that
yeah,
no,
I think
please
we've
let me
already.
talk. No,
Well,
Let,
let
let
her
Abby
let
let
her
Abby
ask the
finish.
question.
let
Oh,
me
sorry.
speak
Sorry.
my opinion on this.
Sorry.
That does not speak on the sex work industry. I think it speaks more on how we treat victims, right? There
Mhm.
needs to be more channels for victims to speak out. And as it stands now, in most places, sex work is illegal. So a lot of people are scared to go and get help in fear of getting arrested. So, yes, of course, they are going to continue on into the sex work industry because that's all they know. Why don't we teach them something else? We can
I
have
don't think you'd.
both.
Yeah, I don't think you would find me opposed to legalizing sex work.
Hold on, you're not
Like,
opposed
I
to
don't think
legalizing sex work?
like yeah, I don't think I've ever taken the stance. I'm pro stigmatization, but I'm anti like
So we should
illegalization
make
of it.
street
Yeah.
walking legal everywhere now?
Maybe not street walking. I guess but you know, like I don't know. I would have to think about it, but
Should I be
I'm
able to
not
just
like
go to like
pro.
Walmart and have the like horror section in Walmart and I just pick up a horror for the night?
No. No, because that's also private business, right? You're not really allowed to do that in a private business. But like
Wait, why
I'm
not?
not
You could.
Yeah, we're gonna
it's
legalize it. Why not? Why can't they just have
Let's go
like
to Walmart.
next to the alcohol
Yeah.
section, next to the milk, right?
Past the cereal, turn left
Wait,
at the
wait,
milk.
wait, wait,
There's
wait,
all the
wait,
whores you
hold
could
on,
ever
hold on,
need.
hold on. I feel
Wait
like
a minute.
I feel like you guys are being weird with Star all of a sudden. Like you can
Yeah,
obviously
you
legalize
yeah.
something. Like weed is legalized in Canada. It's not sitting like in
Yeah.
Walmart. For example, in
Of
Canada,
course.
weed
Yeah.
is super
Yeah.
limited in like the rooms that you
It's
can go to. So is
regulated.
alcohol. It's like legalization doesn't mean
Why am I getting
unregulated.
gaslit all of a sudden? What the fuck's wrong with you guys? Fuck
Well,
you.
I just thought it was
one
a
of
funny
the
image.
issues. I think one of the
Blame
issues
Mike.
is we got super derailed because like we were originally making a point around decriminalization decreasing SA, and I said, well, that's a really tough thing to talk about because obviously it's going to decrease SA amongst specifically consensual sex workers,
Yeah.
but it actually
Yeah.
increases sex trafficking, which is also
Relies on Bob.
SA.
Thank you for the $5.
And so you were talking about like the nature of how like a
I
lot
don't
of
know. Like
sex trafficking
speaking of-
victims, if they get freed from sex trafficking, often
speaking of selling your body, you keep giving me these cringy catchphrases. No, I don't care if Kyla leaves or not. I'm not embarrassed to say it in front of her specifically.
it literally doesn't. Maybe it actually like worsens it, at least right now in decriminalized states, because again, like Soypill pointed out, typically if something's decriminalized in a state, the people who do that criminally are going to go there because it's easier to do the trafficking or the selling of drugs. This is why typically in decriminalized states of like weed, you see actually also more illegal weed sales as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
So-
I again, and I think from the
No, I'm
start
not
of this
against
conversation, I
legalization
quite literally from the start of this
necessarily. I'm
conversation
definitely
said
for
that I wasn't like
decriminalization.
for
On the
continuing
fence about
keeping
legalization because it
sex work
seems to have downstream
criminalized.
consequences,
Like
and I don't know
that's
if
something
we
I
fully
stated in the
addressed
very
that.
beginning. So I don't know why we're being weird about it. So
Well, Wick was being weird, but we can expect that. All right. So
no,
anyway,
it wasn't just Wick.
so
It was
I'd
all
like
of you guys.
to. Well,
It wasn't just Wick. It was all of you guys.
Well, it
all of
was
you guys,
funny when he was
so.
being weird, so that was fun. So I wanted to join in too. I don't want to be left out. Okay, any which way. So now I'll jump in. I apologize.
I will remember this. I will remember this.
I just
just
like
real
bullying
quick,
Star, to be
100
fair.
euros, 100 euros gets to jump in. 100 euros from Zirian to say, all the groundwork necessary to offer the protections you seek allows the roots of a highly pernicious market to drill in deep. Wouldn't proliferation of sex work cause any negative societal externalities, especially with government involvement? don't you
It-
think?
I mean, this is like the great left-right argument. Like, imagine if we had fucking intelligent conservatives who could actually argue this point,
God, I
because
wish.
this is like the actual conversation on the legalization, decriminalization that we're having in substance abuse areas, right? Where we look at areas like Vancouver, right, that has legally available meth and legally available heroin. And what we see is
Thank you,
that
Eilish,
while
for the
there is
two. I like that you
less
had to
OD
use
deaths,
special
right, people
characters to
are
type whore.
monitored more, there's less injuries having to do with substance abuse. So in many ways, it's better for the substance abuser. And just so it's clear, I understand there's a difference between substance abuse and consensual sex work. But just to make the criminalization thing, we also see there is way more illegal drug or importing of fentanyl through Vancouver now than typically in Canada was coming up through American borders. It's coming a lot more through Vancouver now because Vancouver is just easier to bring it in through, right? And so there is actually this tension where we go, it's hard to know. And one of the problems is that acutely, especially, you tend to see an explosion of both people accessing sex work, if you decriminalize it, people trying probably sex work for the first time who wouldn't, in the same way that people are trying weed and stuff like that, people utilizing it, people trafficking it as a result of it. Like, you're going to see an explosion of this. And unfortunately, we just haven't had like a long enough time to see if long term this balances out to like better quality.
Relies on my solution is that I'm going to always read your super chats in the way that you've requested because you paid money. I'm just going to make sure that they know it's from you.
What's the next step? Is legalization better for the sex worker, or is decriminalization better for the sex worker? I don't know. I actually don't know.
Saying
I,
decriminalization.
Yeah,
So
just
can I?
before you
Okay.
before you go, because I want to pick up back off that, and then we're going to give the mic directly to you, Prime Guy. I promise.
Okay.
One of the reasons that I personally am against sex work, is because I don't want men to buy it. I think it hurts the purchaser, right? The person who is engaging in the purchase of that sex work. I believe that they are a victim in many ways. They are preyed upon, and that it hurts them.
Wick, I'm
It
imagining you
makes them
busting into an
less
Amsterdam
able. It
whorehouse
makes
and
them
like saving a poor man from that prostitute
well,
topping
yes,
him, you know?
it
like,
makes them view
oh,
sex
look,
as transactional.
I'll save you, sir.
I don't want my son or my nephew to think women are for sale.
Okay. All right. Can I?
Wait, why are we eye rolling at this? This is like a
Yeah. Hold on. I'll tell you why.
argument.
I'll tell you exactly why I'm eye rolling at that.
Well,
Right.
I just like God.
I'll tell you
Prime, I wish
exactly
you would,
why I'm eye rolling.
hold on. I just wish you would engage with ideas that actually have some like merit and substance. Seriously, like you don't have to smugly eye roll at everything. Just like
So
this is. I don't agree with this. This is like a classic working argument.
Sorry.
Or roll your eyes and be smug.
Erudite.
Let Prime go. Let Prime go.
It's finally my time. Erudite, I'm doing anything I want with my face. You do not control me. I'll do exactly what I want to do with my face, right?
Your face, her choice. Your body, her choice tonight, okay?
You do not.
Wait, yeah, Prime, if I super chat you 50.
You want with your body.
Erudite, she's not for controlling your body. She's not for
True. If I paid you $50, would you stop rolling your eyes?
Actually, I would.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
I'll do that. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So back to it. Okay. All right. And oh fuck. What? So
wait. So you wanted to push back against Wick's sons thinking that women were for sale.
Oh yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yes. So it's this idea of a person for sale, right? Bad. Okay, sure, I can agree with that. But I would also, just as long as we're applying it evenly, right? For sale, when a person is using their body, right? That's a construction worker. Hey, I'm going to pay you, right, to use up your body, to take years off of your life, right? To like end up like in old age with like deep joint pain and arthritis or whatever.
I'm actually super on board
I'm going to
with this,
do
by the way. I agree with him 100%.
For my benefit. Right, like you're getting something out of it. That's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing, right? It's just now
work and sex work are not.
It's not.
Yeah, I agree with Prime. I think sex work is less harmful than a lot of manual labor. To be fair, it's literally less harmful
than that. Exactly. Yeah.
Can we talk about?
No, you can't. Stardust. No, Stardust. Hold on. I've been waiting. I've been patiently waiting.
Yeah, go ahead, Prime, please.
Oh, less so patiently. Okay. Anyway, write it down, Stardust. I do want to hear your responses, though. Anyway, so most of this is to Erudite, but not all of it. Erudite talks about how she's friends with top OnlyFans creators. Okay, great. And she anecdotally relates their opinions. Well, I'm also friends with sex workers. I've known quite a few sex workers doing this business, right? People have come on. We've had conversations exactly about this for years, right? I've talked to plenty of sex workers, ones who've done OnlyFans and one who've done other things
What
as
hurts your
well,
body with
right?
sex work?
And
Depends on which kind, right?
they have mixed experiences, but go through quite a few. So yeah, they love the job, right? Like this is what they wanted to do. They went in there willingly, right? And for the ones I've known, like as close personal friends, right? They don't have some sort of deep trauma filled past, right? And that they can have a healthy relationship with their partners, right? We can do anecdotes too. So what does that say about the wider sex industry and how sex workers actually engage in relationships? I don't know. Right? I'm not going to make that claim, but those are my experiences.
Yeah, but
So
Wick,
their
and
experiences.
Do you
Wick,
want me to?
So
Do you want me to respond to
I
that?
got more.
Well,
I got
well,
more
if
to
we're gonna
go.
go one
Right?
by one, it's just a quick rebuttal. Basically, what the anecdote wasn't to say that this is all sex workers. This is to say this is a part and a cost to sex work that isn't talked about often. That's all it was.
We talk about that all the time. I don't know what you're talking about. We talk about that all the time. That people talk about the emotional consequences of sex work all the time. They were talking. We were talking about it before you got here. We were talking about that. So, but thank you. Acknowledge that is a thing that can happen, right? And then it was said by someone, I think it was Erudite, but I apologize if it wasn't, talking about how like so many sex workers like wouldn't go into profession or hate their jobs. This can be applied to many other jobs as well, right? Going back to construction, a lot of people don't actually want to be doing construction. A lot of people don't want to be doing literally back-breaking work, right? But again, like where we decide to apply stigma, right, is highly subjective there. When we're talking about pro athletes, right? Like pro athletes have all kinds of trauma. Yes, they have physical trauma,
yeah.
but then
If it wasn't rude to
we're
interrupt, I
saying,
would
well,
just say
what about their minds?
I hate being here. I don't want to be here, but I'm
They're
having
getting
fun. I love you guys.
adulation, right? Well, yes, one, we've decided as a society who gets adulation and who doesn't. But two, like literally their minds are degrading from CTE. Literally, they leave the profession, right, with degraded brains than
Oh
what
yeah,
they
and
started
wait,
off
Prime, just
with.
to back you
So,
up, the average NFL career, it's only 3 years, and these people almost
wow.
all have to find not great jobs afterwards. Sometimes it's coaching, a lot of times it's like something completely different, and they have no transferable skills from football. So these guys do get fucked over, probably in similar ways to sex work, no pun intended.
If they were a sex worker, their career could have lasted longer. Anyway, way. Back to the military. Like Stardust was talking about what's more personal than having sex with an individual. No one was saying that like it's not a personal like if you're talking about full body, you know, like full service sex work, right? Not all sex work involves that, but still, I take her point, right? What's more personal than actually having sex with a person? It's a good point, right? I think what's more personal is actually killing that the individual. I think it's a deeply personal act to murder someone else, right? But again, we don't apply this in the same way to the military. We don't apply the same type of stigma. Only two more points. Oh yes, and there was a point I think Stardust was saying this, and Erudite was saying this as well, talking about yes, we live in a society, right? And this current society stigmatizes sex work, and it's going to take us forever. Maybe it'll never happen. What difference does that make, right? What difference does it make if we, for those of us who are actually pro-sex work, are in for a long fight? What difference does it make if it takes society a long time to destigmatize? The point is to fight for a better world. There are a lot of hopeless fights, like climate change, even more hopeless, right? There are a lot of hopeless fights, but they're worth doing, right? To help the people who are marginalized. And then finally, just a thing on benefits, right? Like we as a society can decide who we give benefits to. Right, you guys are correct. Sex workers leave society here in America. They are often left without benefits, and you know it can be difficult to
Yeah, I
transfer
blow
to
up
other jobs
a
if
bus full of
their
school
sex work was
children
public.
in Afghanistan, and no one bats an eye. But I have one girl on my bang bus, and everyone loses their minds.
Of all laborers, right? Not
What
just
a
sex
yeah.
workers. Well, we should take care of them all afterwards.
Okay.
I want-
Okay. Just to be very quick, because I hate when this happens in these type of conversations when like the left is fighting the left. We just like have to turn this into one of us has to be evil, so it has to be the other guy. the idea that, for example, I don't even know if you know what my position is, but the idea that I don't want to see a better life for sex workers, less stigma for sex workers, and better education around sex work, do you actually
I
think that I don't
constantly
want
worry
these
about it,
things?
Vash.
Well, your partner doesn't fund, but maybe I
Sorry,
actually don't.
am I a
Be fair, be
star?
fair. No. Don't worry, don't worry. I'm
Oh,
gonna
okay.
say what I'm going to say, Erudite, that it's possible that I am misunderstanding your position. If I am, then I do apologize. Please tell me.
Okay. So the idea that I suspect even Star would agree that she doesn't want like a worse world for them. I don't know exactly
No, I
because I don't
don't.
know what her stigma argument is necessarily. So to talk about this issue, I don't even know how to respond because it just feels like a giant trauma just happened. They have a deep. I know people and they love it. And they don't have a deep filled trauma past. That's awesome. What my issue is how often does the Bop House talk about the costs
No,
on
that
their
was not a
bodies, their
Malala
minds, and
reference.
their
Oh my god.
relationships and their lives? How often does that happen? Because I almost never see Bop House content about that. I
I
mostly
don't
see
know,
I
but
glorifying
personally
their life.
I
do.
agree that they should.
From Bop House?
They, okay.
Oh, not
What
okay.
is
Sorry,
Bop
not
House?
from people in the
Oh,
industry. Excuse. Oh, isn't that like
of
a
course.
TikTok house?
We
Wait,
are.
it's the largest sex work house in North America. So
That's
I
the TikTok thing,
That's
yeah.
awful.
right?
Where is
Yeah,
this?
she just doesn't know
Also
the name of
on
it.
only
That's
so
awful.
She just
TikTok
doesn't know the name of
creators
it.
who are
But
OnlyFans models, right? So of
yeah,
course, I also know incredible sex workers that are very mature about it and have very good like conversations about this. And I'm for more of that. Fucking obviously. But to pretend as though there isn't a romanticization happening for young women, particularly right now, on top of the incentive structure. If you're a young woman and you get 15,000 followers on TikTok, if you just start an OnlyFans, you can basically guarantee some income that you cannot get from TikTok. So not only is it romanticized very often to particularly young girls because Bop House stuff pushes it to young boys and young girls, but also on top of that, the incentive structure on social media right now to funnel particularly young, let's be frank, stupid people, like stupid girls because they're 18, they're very young into sex work. There's a high level of this. And that my only position would say, this is something that we should go, this isn't okay. There's something icky here and we need to slow this down. Like the Bop House shouldn't be glorifying Sophie Rain's life without being honest about the fact that, like, first of all, most of you aren't going to be Sophie Rain. Because it feels a lot like e-commerce guys being like, look how much money I made. And it's like, most of you won't be that guy.
True.
Erudite, though.
Let me get
But
through.
we are.
Let
Hold
me
on,
get
very
through a
quick.
couple super chats.
Erudite, we already agreed to that with Soy Pill, right? We say, hey, we should have PSAs. There should always be more education, and whatever profession you're going to enter. So we
I
agree
get
there.
well. Let me get through a couple
Sure.
super chats, but then the
Okay.
question I want you to answer after I'm done with the super chats, Prime and Abby, is: do you think people like the Bop House are predators? Would
So
you consider
I
them
feel
predators?
if I could
You want me
answer
to
I
wait till
would
if you don't
after?
consider them
mind.
predators.
Do you
So
want
in
to do it
my
now or after?
opinion,
But let me think on your answer. I'm gonna get through the super chats, and then I want you to answer. I'll give it to you first, Abby. Tier 2 membership from Audacity. Man, I'll tell you, sex is always work when you're out of shape. Thank you. $5 more from Audacity to say, let me finish, a common phrase in the industry. $10 from William from Texas. We definitely need more regulation of sex work in the U.S. Right now, we have situations where underage Jezebels tempting streamers into attempting to sex traffic
my
them
God.
across state lines.
Is that a reference to something?
I don't know. $5 from
With
Allison.
Jezebel here.
Yeah, like, well, oh, these floozies, these loose women.
Would sex work lower the overall incidence in assault since they'd be able to buy it? Would it give women more power due to the competition?
I don't think most people who
Probably not.
rape do it because they're like, well, otherwise I'd go buy a prostitute.
If I could buy it, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, it's like, damn, like, it's
I
usually because
don't
it's...
want to beat my wife, but I can buy a whore, so it's fine. Like, what?
Yeah.
What
Let's
are
go
we
to the
even talking
boxing
about right
It's
now?
usually a power
No,
thing and a dominance thing. So.
To actually take this seriously,
And drinking.
right? To take this seriously, I agree that my only pushback, and it's slight, right, is
Yeah,
that
keep in mind, it's a
sexual
$5
assault.
super chat. Let's not give a $50
Very,
answer.
very,
Okay.
very quickly, right? My only pushback is that sexual assault happens for a whole list of reasons, right? Sometimes it's about power, right? Other times it's about frustration. Like there's a whole list of reasons why that might happen. It could be the case. I don't have any studies, so this is just out of my ass, right? It could be the case that for a very certain specific segment, right, of people who perform sexual assault, that if they had some easy access to sex, that it would decrease it. But
Yeah,
I
some
think
I
it's very
think
some
I think
segments,
the
sure.
only
very
argument for
close.
that actually would be that if like young people are engaging with sex workers in somewhat of like an educational way, and the sex worker does a lot of like talking to them about like implied consent and what it looks like, and I think it would reduce all of the messy sexual assaults that occur when both parties are drinking and consent gets
See that.
Okay.
fuzzy.
$20 from
Yeah.
Alexander Rin to say the distinction is kind of immaterial if you want to make something legal. If your parents coerce you into a construction job that you later decide you want to continue, nobody would blink. Not the same for sex work. It's a true point. $5 from Pulse. The Pulse.
Wow, hold on. Hold on. Sex trafficking victims are typically kidnapped and like not just like they're forced and like imprisoned.
Yeah,
Whereas your parents being like, "Come on, buddy, it pays so well." It's
Well,
like,
your
yeah,
parents
a
are also
better
forced into
it's
analogy.
sex.
A
very
bet-
different.
well, a better
No, but your
analogy is
parents
like
actually force you
Qatari
into
and
sex.
like
It happens all the
construction
time.
worker
Let's
slaves,
go,
right?
go,
Like
real quick.
like
Yeah,
a
so
better
go.
analogy is like, yeah, if a Qatari and like sex work or construction worker slave, decided to keep doing construction work after they somehow got freed, after they built like the FIFA World Cup stadium, right? Like not your parents got you into it, right? And in that case,
No,
it would be
guys,
valid
guys.
to question, right? It'd say like, hey, like you only know construction because you were a fucking slave. Like, don't you maybe want to break out of this? It's in the same way. People would probably
Guys,
blink a little.
Can we understand? Sorry, can we have a deeper understanding what sex trafficking looks like? Right, you guys are trying to hit me and Abby over the head about like the danger of sex trafficking, but like no, I've actually looked into this a lot. Sex trafficking looks a lot different than necessarily like a Qatari smuggling into the Middle East. Sex trafficking happens in your own region, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sex trafficking can happen because your coach forced you into that. There was actually a big case, I think in Michigan, right, where a coach was having a whole sex trafficking ring within his small little town, right? Your parents, yes, can force you into sex trafficking. That's a real thing.
Well, Prime,
Wait,
the
hold
reason,
on.
the
Hold
reason,
on.
wait,
A parent encouraging you. Please don't tell me you're trying to compare. A parent maybe pressuring you to go into construction is the same as being groomed by your parents or a pimp to do sex work. We're not comparing these things, right?
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm
Okay,
just
great.
expanding our understanding of what sex trafficking looks like. That's it. Because it seems
Prime,
like there's
Prime, the
pushback
reason
against
I'm
that.
not like using those examples, which I do acknowledge are real sex trafficking, is that the studies that I talk about, where it's like legalization increases of sex trafficking, specifically looks like underground rings taking women from other countries on ships and over the border into the Netherlands or Sweden or like where these studies were performed. So like that's the
definitely part of it.
primary consequence of it. But yes, of course, sex trafficking can happen, in your backyard.
I don't know
think
if
that's
it's
what like.
primary. So in America, like I believe I heard a statistic on. Don't hold me to this, but I believe I heard a statistic that sex trafficking actually happens more locally than bringing people
In
at
America,
least
that's
in the
probably
States.
true. I would believe that.
Yeah.
Like maybe on the border, it's like not as common, but yeah, in the like
And
most
different countries
states,
are different, right? Different places have different problems.
I do want to get through these real quick so we can get back to the discussion. $5 from the Pulse 2X to say football in the military for a fact has a high rate of mental and physical trauma. People unalive themselves because Kyla is so wrong.
Yeah, every veteran suicide is because of Kyla.
Kyla is so wrong. $10 from Alishness. Is that why?
I'm sure that guy's a little bit hard knowing that I heard his comment. So
Oh,
congratulations,
God. Oh,
I guess,
God.
buddies.
Oh,
Did sex
God.
working
Does that
just
count
happen,
as
Prime
that?
Kai?
Yeah,
And
that was
wait,
sex work right there. By
hold on.
describing his penis, you
But
just
that
engaged in
wasn't
sex
with
work.
no consent. No, it being read was kind of the sex work. So was actually, I guess Wick was doing the sex work, Prime.
True.
And I was
No.
kind of being pimped out because that was
A
kind
little
of
bit. Am
sexual
I your
harassment.
pimp now? Is this
No,
what's happening?
Erudite.
It
No,
got a
no.
little hard just knowing you read
Specifically-
it to me. Then
Erudite,
kind of, I didn't consent to that.
I specifically said that like simply being hot, simply being erudite, and being
Just to
attractive.
be clear,
doesn't
we
count
don't
as
have
sex.
to. We don't have to talk about. We don't have to respond to me seriously about this question.
$10 from Alishness to say, is that why women aren't allowed on boats? They're not for sale? Okay.
I don't get the joke. Oh, I get it now. I get it. Never mind. I get it.
Okay, $5.
Because both have
Sorry.
sales. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, $5 from input output to say thank you, Wick, for a good show. You're welcome, I guess. And then $5 more from the Pulse to say Wick is so wrong in treating men like idiots, like we don't know different. I hate that argument. Oh,
I
and
agree
then
with that
me.
one because the idea that's like, oh, if prostitutes exist, then my stupid fucking
Oh,
son
hold
will
on.
think that women
No,
are for sale.
not if prostitutes exist. If it's normalized for people, men primarily, let's not kid ourselves, men to offer money to women in exchange for sexual favors. If that's a normal thing in society, I think that does damage relationships. Do you think it would be do you want your daughters to live in a world where men can just approach them and it's socially acceptable to approach them and say, "Hey, I have $20
I
here.
don't think I
Suck my
think
Oh
dick."
even in
man,
a
Why would that
world
be so
Wick, I've
where
got some
sex work
bad
was
news for you about what
decriminalized,
women deal with.
Okay, do you think that would be there that they would have to deal with it more or less or the same if we legalize sex work and destigmatize
I'd
it?
Yeah,
probably say the
Mm,
same, and it's gonna be
probably,
very, very
yeah.
little.
That's okay.
well, I guess so. This is like a classic, like kind of Dworkin-esque like swerve argument. My issue is like I just feel like if you go to like any country where women have to basically be covered from head to toe and like are barely visible, we still see like massive amounts of sex work. In fact, we see an increase of young boys being used in like pederastic sex work, and also we still see a massive amount of sexualization of women and sexual assault of women. So like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I can imagine in third world countries where you have these kind of backwards regressive norms that might be the
But it's not
case.
even just
But I'm
third
talking
world,
about in
Wick.
our
We're talking
society
about like
today. I don't think.
Saudi
Hold on,
Arabia, which I don't think
if
you
I
can
may
call
finish.
third world.
If I may finish really quick, right? Well, I would consider them to have a third world culture when it comes to these things. If they're
Oh boy.
putting their women in head to
But that's
toe
not what third
burqas
world
type of
means.
thing.
Third world is specific to the economic, like in
I
the
understand.
establishment,
I'm
not
using it in more
oh,
You got a
I
third
don't
world
like
mindset.
their culture.
I'm
No,
being
Like,
derogatory
you just
towards
have a
their
third world
culture, but let me
mindset. Okay,
finish
you
my
understand.
this
point,
is a
if I may.
spiritually Israeli argument, Wick. I don't like it.
Yeah. If I
Yep.
may finish my point, right? I think that already we are seeing a worse world for women, especially young women, due to the proliferation and normalization of OnlyFans. There are people who would be streamers, but who are kept out of being streaming because they don't want to deal with the normalization that has happened when it comes to people coming into people's chats and saying, "Hey, what's your OnlyFans? I want to see your tits. Why don't you start an OnlyFans?" And that is a normalized behavior. If we were to normalize sex work even more, that would get worse.
Okay, that's
Do
fair.
you think that people weren't like? Come on, sorry. Do you think that people weren't asking women for like to not through OnlyFans, but to DM them pics previously, and weren't DM them their own dick pics previously? That wasn't a thing before
Do you think that,
OnlyFans.
again, it's not just how it happens or when it happens, but how society treats it when it does? Because I
Yeah,
promise you,
we treated
again, before all this, we
no
treated it much more
no we did.
negatively
Hold
to
on, hold on.
do
Sorry,
that
it's
than we do
sorry.
now.
I think there's
But
always been
you
a boys will be boys culture kind of
yeah.
surrounding how especially young boys talk to young girls. And I think normalizing sex work and having more of these conversations, at least in my opinion, might actually lead to less of these types of comments being normalized. And we might actually react to them more
I don't think
strongly in a
so.
negative if I could finish, because we are having more of these open conversations. What I strive for is just more of an open dialogue and to get rid of like the stigmatization behind it, because so we can have a lot of these conversations so outcomes like that are less likely to happen.
So
Roberta,
through
go
like
ahead.
through every stage of a woman's life, like I think I've heard this that in every stage of a woman's life versus a man's life, like men are just all their libido is just so much higher, like every single stage of their life, right? And I'm sorry, but like I just I don't think that's true. Like there's like this over goonification of our culture. I really don't like it. I don't like it how many times like I'll have people come into my chats, or I used to have people come into my chats when I stream more regularly. Oh, where's the OnlyFans? You know, like that. No, it's not really nice. No, I don't think that the normalization of sex work, whether that's OnlyFans or whether that's like doing like actual street prostitution prostitution. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't like the over-goonification of our culture. I think people should learn to be normal people and not like always like sexualizing things or always sexualizing women. I think actually normalizing the sex work probably will lead to people being more sexual and gooning more in public.
I just,
So,
I think that
Nan,
go
you go
ahead,
first.
Brian.
Okay. Well,
Ladies
very quickly, no problem. Just very quickly, I think you just sexualized men in a weird way. I
I
don't
did.
know.
Yeah, no, I'm very sexist. Yeah, actually I am. Like men are
I didn't say.
gooners. Men are gooners. Overwhelmingly, who are the ones who purchase sexual material? Men. Who are the ones who
Yes, hold on.
overwhelmingly are like
I
doing weird sex shit? Men.
Hold on.
Sorry.
I agree. I agree. Hold on. No, I agree
Men
with
are
you. No,
gooners.
no, hold on. I agree. I agree with you on that. You'll find no disagreement there, right? But why is that the
Stop
case?
being
Does that
fucking weird
does
about
what's
sex.
oh my hold on.
Personally, I
I'm gonna
can't wait
just
for this
respond
to
you.
end so I
Second.
can go
Just
goon.
very
That's
quickly,
just all
right?
I'm
It's
thinking
just that
about.
like talking about the libidos of women. Like do men have higher libidos when I think women have like if you had a distribution of that, their sex drives would be more or less equal. Some people have sex drives, really high sex drives. Some people have low, right? However, it's more acceptable for men to express their sex drives through like the purchasing of like sexual materials and all that, right? But women have high sex drives. They have other ways to deal
They
with
have
that
high sex
and more
drives, but like
access to
again, in
actual like
comparison to
in-person
men,
sex.
in
Sorry, go
comparison
ahead.
to men, I'm pretty
Yeah,
yeah.
women's sex
So
drives are just more highly stigmatized than men's sex
Yeah,
drives
yeah,
are.
I
yeah, I
don't
get
think
that.
I'm a
that's
gooner, but I
true.
can't
I
talk
don't
about
think
being a
that's
gooner.
true.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure there were studies showing that like through
I have
every
seen the
stage in
women's
a
romance section. Okay, I see what you guys, you girls
It's
goon to.
wild.
I
I'm
was
a
It's
thinking about
gooner,
that
crazy
too,
and
Wick.
shit.
I'm
saying,
proud
if I
to
can
say
Okay.
finish
it.
what I'm saying, I'm pretty sure that there's a huge difference between a dude stroking off in like 5 minutes versus a woman reading an erotic novel. Sorry,
Yeah,
An
because she
erotic
take
Why
because
is
she
novel
it- why
takes
is
is
it
longer.
okay?
I'm reading an
Why is it
erotic
okay?
novel
It
and
makes
stroking off
them
in
like
5
it.
minutes.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah, you could do both. Yeah.
wait, hold
I
on,
do
hold
both.
on. These things are definitely different. I hate when we try to make these things equalize. Erotica is definitely off, like the
It's
way that
very
women
different.
engage
Yeah.
and like participate with erotica, which I agree with you guys, is like the stigmatization on women's sexuality is
Yeah, I'm not
self-evident
okay
and
with
bad.
that
And
either.
obviously,
I,
nobody
I'll let
here
Erdive
likes.
respond.
Let
No,
her
obviously,
finish, Stardust.
oh God, being so unbearable today. And obviously, everyone here would agree that that's a huge problem that comes from mostly like our religious history, right? I think also if we like removed all stigma, I wouldn't be surprised if still we see like a higher sex drive amongst men. I think that there is like
Morning
just some like
Glory
endocrine issues. If you talk
milking
to like
book?
most people, for
What
example,
the fuck?
who are transitioning and they like go on T, for example, or they go off and go into estrogen, they see like massive shifts in their libido. So like I think that this is like somewhat self-evident that like by and large men that have lots of testosterone in their body are going to be driven to be a little bit more gooners, and at the same time, of course, that like women's sexuality is like viewed as this like negative, pernicious thing. I think like both of these things are true. I don't know what.
yeah.
I feel like we're
It can
missing
be
the
both.
interesting conversation
Yeah.
to fight over
Yeah.
this. Like,
So what I'm saying, like, I'm not denying that, like, yes, women's sexuality is stigmatized and like, generally we're taught to like be ashamed of those things. But again, like you look at every stage of a woman's life versus every stage of a man's life, like men tend to have a higher libido. And so I agree with Not So Erudite. I think even if we took away the stigmatization, we would still find that that would bear true. And again, like the way that men
Well,
engage
you're
with
just kind of assuming that.
pornography,
I mean, I think you're just kind of assuming that
the
without
way
any
okay,
evidence. And I don't have any
but
evidence either, to be clear.
no, I do remember
There are
reading a study.
studies
I'll
that
have to
show
look it
that
up.
men on average have higher libidos
Yeah.
than women.
Yeah,
That could be a
I do
reporting
remember.
problem, but this is like, yeah.
I do remember
probably
reading
not just
studies
a
on
few
it. I would
studies,
have to
probably a
find.
meta-analysis.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I would have to like look up what I read in the past, but I do remember that very distinctly being a finding that men in general have higher libidos throughout all stages of their life in comparison to women.
That's not what
And
I'm.
wait a minute,
That's not something I'm pushing
let
back
me finish.
against.
Let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish. Let
Oh,
me
now
finish.
you're concerned
Let me
about people
finish.
finishing.
Let me finish. Let me finish. I do care about people finishing. I care about myself
I'll
finishing
always
and
let
not
you
you.
finish.
Shoe on
Stardust.
head only
Um,
seems right wing, Anthony,
Thank
because
you.
she's stupid, but she's
In
only
fact,
a little
Prime
right
should
wing.
never be allowed to
She's
finish
just
ever.
dumb. And
So
married to a
what
Christian
I'm
nationalist.
saying
That's
is that I wasn't really meaning it that way, but so what I wanted to say is that the erotic novels, like I just feel like I'm not somebody who reads those things, but again, it's like I think women engage with those things in a very different way. Dudes, they that yeah. So yeah, I forgot where I was
Yeah,
going with this. So I gave
good.
up.
We
Yeah.
were talking about sex work and whether or not that would like increase. So like the Dworkin argument, right? And I guess I wanted to engage because I really disagree with Dworkin. I think that there is a predilection, like even in my own nature, like I know that I am more of a prude than less of a prude compared to other people, mostly because of probably my like childhood history, right? Like I have a lot of negative experiences with sexuality. But and so I think a lot of people that talk about this, like this presumption that more sex in the space would actually lead to more gooning.
Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah.
So the issue is that I feel like every time I'm in spaces where sexuality is normalized more, when I've gone to like
That made
kink
me laugh,
parties or
Bob.
dungeon, like any of these like very high sex, I feel like I see, honestly, by and large, way less sexuality. And when it does occur, it's almost done in like, it's kind of like weird in that like, I feel like if I go to a conservative TPUSA party, I'm going to see more flirting, more making out, and more fucking in back rooms than if I go to like most kink parties. In large part because like a lot of kink parties are maybe, they're so used to sex and sexuality, they're like, I don't know, I'm good. I'm just like chilling and vibing. That's like broadly been my experience. Like when I look, and I feel like
Is
when
Kyla just
we
casually dropping
when we
like
see
when I'm
like
at
greater
sex
levels of like
parties,
more
like
normalized sexuality, like particularly the like sex work can look, I just wouldn't be surprised to see if overall what we actually see is just like people not freaking the fuck out over sex so much. Because a lot of the conversations when it comes to like sex and sex work and sexuality, the reason why I would push back on Abby and Prime and be like, we do treat this thing differently. I don't think it's good that we treat it differently, but it's obvious that everyone feels like sex is weird and a little bit different than everything else. Now, I don't think that that's self-evidently true and it should be that way forever. But what I do think is that if the more you normalize sex, that it is just like more of a behavior, I actually suspect that you'll see two things. One, a broad like chilling out on sexuality overall because there's
I
way
like
less
that when
like
Beef
pent up
Supreme
energy. But
subscribed.
two, you're
Prime
probably
looks
also
like
going
he's
to see
looking
a
at it right
pretty
now.
large explosion of more sex-related disorders, particularly with like sex addiction, porn addiction, and potentially even like unhealthy pursuits of types of kinks. I wouldn't be surprised if all of these coincide together.
But to be clear, just real quick, to be clear, I am not arguing against more sexuality. I am arguing against making sexuality more transactional. And I think there's two different things here. I think it's fine if people want to on their own without any real monetary transaction, none of the monetary incentives that come with such, to be more sexual and more open. I think that's okay, right? I don't think we can have arguments on whether that's good or bad, but my primary pushback against sex work specifically is the transactional nature of it, which is at a different scale than any other kind of transaction you can look at.
Sorry,
I just think the transaction nature actually frees the woman in large part. Like I think part of why we have like such a like weird.
I think.
I think to some men it will entrap them, and some men I think it will like chill them out, right? I think for some men there is going to be an experience that if they can just do transaction with sex, but more importantly, all of his friends won't look on him as a less man. Because right now, even though you can go on OnlyFans, every dude knows that if he tells most of his bros that he like goons out to OnlyFans models and pays for it, they all think he's a lesser man. In fact, most left people feel this way. Most women, if they find out that one guy spends like, he's got a budget of like $450 for OnlyFans every month, most women as well will look down on that guy.
Wait, hold
right?
on. But Kyla, the reason we look down is because it's financially irresponsible, because that shit's free, okay? Like this is coming from a Jewish perspective, I think that's just financially irresponsible, not because he's like...
Yeah, but maybe he wants something specific.
Up?
He wants the OnlyFans experience specifically where there is like some level of like parasociality, and that's what he's intentionally paying for. And maybe he's an ethical guy and he actually just wants to not get it for free. He wants to pay the sex worker rather than having her body ripped off for free and just post it all over Pornhub. Maybe he's a good guy. In fact, arguably, he's a better guy than you being cheap.
If I could back you up a little bit, just quickly for Wick, right? Like sex has always been transactional, like always, right? For millennia, we've treated women literally as property. To sell back. We still do that. We still treat. No, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm not saying it's one. I'm not saying it's
so the less transactional.
Wait, one second. Hold on. That's one example of transactionality, but like it happens all the time within the concept of relationship and how we use sex to get things that we want out of our partners, right? In big ways and small ways, sex can be quite transactional. So, but like that in itself is another debate. Hold on, that'll be a whole other debate, but I'd love to have it with you. But to Erudite's point, Erudite was talking about
I think those are the
how
battle angels, but I don't
people
know.
act within kink parties. Like that's my experience. I haven't gone to a lot of kink stuff myself, right? To be
A
clear,
lot.
but I've talked to a lot of kink individuals. I've read a lot about kink, right? I've had panels on kink, right? And like what
I
she's
call you
saying
guys
there seems
soybeans
to
or
be
soipers,
backed up. That
depending on
these
how I
people
feel about it.
have, I don't know, maybe like because of the exposure, but also because they talk a lot about consent, especially with the kink community, right? They talk a lot about consent in a way you don't see in other places. And we hear from like conservative spaces about women coming out of conservative spaces is that they don't respect consent in the same way, right? And that there's a like sexual harassment is quite normalized. So like I'm going to try not to like prognosticate and what exactly would be the case if we like quote unquote normalize sex work, right? And how society will look like. It's actually quite difficult. There's so many factors here. But I just want to back up Erudite on that narrow point that kink spaces actually like treat sex in a completely different in a more I think healthy manner, honestly. But I'll just leave it there.
Okay. Well, gang, it is 8:05 and I know you guys have some things to do. So I am going to give everyone here closing thoughts on the subject at hand, and I'm going to let you shout out your anything you want to shout out. I got links to all their stuff. Everyone who gave me links at least in my YouTube description. We're probably after this, you guys can go, but we're probably going to stay live a little bit just to watch the 9 p.m. Eastern Trump announcement, where we're probably going to war, gang. Okay, we're
He's the
probably
peace
going to war.
president. He would never do that, Wick. Don't say that.
We stand for peace
That's
and
what
we
all my
stand for
conservative
there's
friends
a
said.
high chance that it's not.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure, right? But
The Epstein files are in Maduro's desk. We have to do it.
But it'd be better for you to join the military now than to go into sex work. Remember that, okay? All right, go ahead.
unironically, you would be safer, yes. But regardless, thank you, and I'll read the super chats too. But I want to give it first to Erudite, and I'm gonna let Abby have the last word, and we're gonna go in kind of that order. So Erudite, close us out, please.
Sure. Yeah, I guess like my final statement is like I think everyone should try to like self-interrogate their relationships to sex and sexuality a lot more before they like want to talk at length and think about like how is the best way to prescribe the world. And I don't mean like for the panelists. I think like in general, our society has a really, really strange relationship to sex, and I think it does us a lot of harm. I also think that like by and large, the sex worker is always viewed as like the least of women. Because I think it's like the most socially appropriate way to like vent out misogyny. I think that if like you actually had an issue with sex work, you'd be a lot angrier at the Pornhub, the owners of Pornhub who were just charged and admitted to basically
Careful with
facilitating
that
minor
anti-Semitism,
trafficking.
Kyle.
But instead, people are mad at
The only
like
people I ever see complain
Belle
about the
Delphine
Pornhub
or
owners,
like
it's always because they're
Bonnie
Jewish.
Blue.
Bonnie Blue or like all these
Bonnie.
other. It's like I have some issues with Bonnie Blue because of like the young boy thing. I don't love her
Yeah.
like going around and
Yeah,
looking for
sorry, that was
the
a really bad example.
the
Now that
youngest
I
consensual.
think on
But
it
like
for a
Sophie Rain,
second.
right? Like people are so mad at Sophie Rain for existing and making a lot of money, and it's like fair enough. It's frustrating that like it can be so easy for some people to make money, but it's like I don't know. XQC exists, so I don't know what we're mad about. If you want to be mad about sex work and you think it's destroying society, fundamentally you have to be talking about like the large scale providers of it, right? I feel like this is like the same thing that happens in like environmentalist conversations where they're mad about the world getting destroyed, so they like yell at their friend for not throwing out like a straw instead of talking about like the oil industry or like how China and India are just like dumping sewage into the ocean, like things like that, right? So I don't know. I feel like it's just justified misogyny to blame sex workers instead of actually talking about the real problem.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. And gang, we are going to have like a call-ins after this, I think, for the hour while we wait for the Venezuelan thing. So any of you want to stay for that, you can. And if you want to hop backstage, now's the time. Soy Pill, go ahead.
Yeah. essentially, yeah, I'm not against legalization in principle. I would want to make sure that if we do so, we could do so in a way that would make sure that we're not increasing the sex trafficking, which I'm pretty sure is not just the increased reporting. I do think it increases the demand and the increase of people being brought in from other countries, which is bad. There's also other kinds of sex trafficking. I think although while we had this discussion, there was a lot of agreement, it kept coming back to this thing, and I'm not trying to put shade on you, Prime, but like very often I would hear this like phraseology of like, just like we do with other jobs. And that's the whole point, is like, but it's not like other jobs. This is a very specific thing, partly because of the stigma, but also because of the consequences that can happen in sex work. I'm not anti-sex work, but I do want to make sure, and I'm glad you agree with me on this, that we need to make sure that the people that are going into this are not being groomed, are not being pressured, are not being preyed upon, and are doing so because they like it, because that is a thing that absolutely exists. People just, people like fucking, some people like getting paid to fuck. All right, so that's cool. If you're pro-sex work, I'm pro-sex work. I just want to make sure that no one's getting abused in it, and it's never going to be no one, but there are ways that we can make sure that people have informed consent going into this stuff. So yeah, otherwise, I'm never starting an OnlyFans. Stop asking me.
Okay. Check him out, gang. You don't get to see his OnlyFans. Only the top tier subscribers do, okay? But you can see him stream and check out his channel. Stardust, go ahead.
Yeah, so again, I don't ever want to like blame sex workers either, or put the blame on women who've fallen into that profession. It's obviously, a lot of people are enter that out of desperation or other things, right? But I do think that I agree with Soy Pill's assessment that it seems like, although we had this conversation that sex work is not like other work, it still seems like there's like this false thing where we're trying to, or certain people are
Inflation.
trying
Say
to make
conflation,
it
Star. You got it.
more equivalent to other jobs than it actually is. I remember I even talked about earlier about how, sex is this deeply personal thing, and the commodification of this deeply personal thing probably isn't the greatest for the people who are engaging in that commodification. And I remember Prime responding to that and saying, well, what else is a deeply personal thing is killing somebody. I would actually argue that, that's not necessarily the case. Most people don't really get the opportunity to kill people. Most people don't get the opportunity to kill people. And also, I would say to kill somebody, probably you're more likely to depersonalize them, aren't you? Like, aren't you more likely to like you to be able to cross that line? So I don't know. I do feel like that is not really a great example either. And I do think, because most people are probably going to engage in into sexually intimate relationship at some point. Commodifying it is just not, it's not great, and it probably has adverse effects on people. So but that doesn't mean that I don't think it should be legalized. I'm like pro regulation and putting things in place to make sure people are safe and reduce the amount of people being abused. And again, as far as stigmatization thing goes, again, I'm not like pro Puritan culture. I'm just pro the same type of stigma that you would experience if you decide to do a really shitty career that's going to take you nowhere, basically. So,
Okay.
yeah.
No, well, thank you for being here, Stardust. And Stardust, you
you for
can check
having-
her out at her remonetized channel.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can pitch that. Yeah, but
Yeah,
congratulations on
I forgot
that.
to mention that. Yeah, you may have known that like about a year ago, my main channel got demonetized. Well, randomly, the other day it got remonetized. So I don't know what that's about, but yeah, come check me out. I'll be putting more videos up. I'm currently working on a video essay. So we'll see if I can get out of my loops. We'll be there soon. So yeah.
Sorry,
Congratulations
Putt-Putt.
once
It's
again,
not
and go
happening.
check her out, gang. Prime Kai, please.
First of all, thank you, Wick, for being so kind
A
as
Discord
to
is
invite
more
me to
likely
this
than an
conversation.
OnlyFans, to be
We
clear.
always
And that's never
appreciate you
happening.
bringing on and just talking to people here. And shout out to Abby, who I had never met before. It was really nice meeting you. And hopefully we can see more in this space. I think you have a lot to offer.
Crap,
Thank
you're
you,
right. I
Soy
forgot,
Pill.
realizing I will say it.
He's not. That's all right. But thank
No,
you, Soy Pill.
I'm
You're
listening.
great.
I'm listening. Don't worry.
Sure. You're fantastic. And
Thank
I
you.
like
You too.
arguing against you, and I like to do it more. Stardust, I haven't seen you in like literally like I think 2 years or so, but I hope everything is well with you, your family. And yeah, I would love to talk to you as well. Erudite, I love you so much. I think you're great, and wonderful in all the ways. And I really like to see you again. Anyway, okay. So beyond that, oh, and find me twitch.tv, twitch.tv, youtube.com, and kick.com. Also TikTok. There too, right? Slash Pimekai, PRIMECAYS. All right. Just very quickly, I think I said pretty much all that I needed to say. I think there is, I don't think, and I don't think that sex work is like the exact same thing as any other type of work, but it's work, right? And also, we can draw comparisons. We can draw comparisons between two different things that have similarities, right? While also acknowledge that they are still distinct, right? So we can draw comparisons between construction work, between the military, between being a professional athlete, right? While still acknowledging, yeah, these two things aren't the same. All right, that's pretty simple. Beyond that, in terms of like what's more personal, murdering a person, yeah, it's actually a deeply personal act, taking someone else's life, right? You for the individual, right? For the individual doing the act, it's a personal act, even if you think the other person isn't the person, right?
I don't know
And
why I
so
just thought of
like
this,
these
guys, but
things
I
have
found out how to
awful
do the like
consequences. So I
Chad
was talking
Ewing
about the
face
military at that
like
point,
really
but also
well a couple days
mercenaries
ago. Like
exist.
the
Mercenaries are a thing, right? But in fact, my entire time on Twitch, I don't think I've ever had a discussion on mercenary work, right? I had a lot of a discussion on sex work, right? Like in this case, we're both monetizing an action that people don't like, right? But sex work specifically is the one that just kind of keeps coming up, right? Even though there's plenty of mercenaries around. So anyway, I just don't like making the
Almost
special
like
category.
murdering people is viewed holistically as more bad than selling sex, which is probably good.
I don't know. We thank our
Well,
veterans when they
let
come
him finish
back.
his thing so we can get Abby, and so we can we'll
Yeah,
do Collins. I promise, so we can argue.
I know, I'll end it very quickly. But yeah, so I think we can acknowledge these things are distinct. I just don't want sex work being put in a special category, right? And being moralized specifically for that. I understand not everyone here was moralizing. Sorry, I'm not trying to say that you were, right? But that's how the larger society does that, and I will always push against that. Shout out to my workers, no matter where you are.
Real quick, Prime, Super Chatter told me that I have to say, congratulations, you've been soiled beyond recovery. So got him, even though you said nice things about me.
Ew.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's give it to Abby. Abby. Well, first of all,
Okay.
yes, go check out Prime. Now, Abby, last word. Go ahead.
Well, first off, I guess obviously thank you guys so much,
Oh,
all of
fuck
you,
you,
for this
Bob. Now what?
opportunity. This has
You weren't
definitely
serious.
been
You paid me money.
an
I'm doing it.
interesting experience. You guys all seem very smart. Y'all have this has been fun. I guess like my closing thoughts are we had a lot of discussions about a lot of like hypotheticals, what could happen if we were to legalize sex work, or if we were to talk about this more. Do men have higher libidos than women? There's a lot of like these very broad, very overarching questions, but I think at least in my opinion, I think what we should focus on is what is happening now. So there are sex workers out there right now who are being forced into dark alleys and who are being forced into sketchy and uncomfortable situations.
Which dark alleys? Where?
And I think those people do deserve protections. And obviously there are protections in place now, but I think the more restrictions, I do still stand firm as to what I said before. The more restrictions you put on it, the more harm is going to happen to a lot of people. And I also
I don't
do
think this is a
still
strong
stand
argument.
firm
Can
in
you
the
guys
fact
imagine
that
if we said
the
this about
more
guns? Like,
conversation we have about it, the more people are going to be able to come forward about their experiences. So a lot of the stigma does need to go away for us to have a brighter future. So that's about it.
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
not very So sorry, I'm not very active on social media, but I was told I need to shout out. Um, I'm on a speech and debate team. That's how I got here. SCSU speech and debate. That's my channel
Okay,
on
SCSU
TikTok.
Yeah,
speech and
I
debate
added
on
you as a friend
TikTok.
on Discord. We'd love to
Yeah,
talk to
go
you.
check.
Perfect.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
great. Thanks for being here, all. What do we got coming up tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern? Well, we're gonna do call-ins and stuff after this for about an hour, and then we're gonna watch the Venezuelan announcement. Well, the
Could
Trump
be something
announcement, which we
else.
don't know.
It could be.
It
Could be.
could be.
We
Maybe him
discovered the
and
real
Molly
cause of
would-
autism this time. They actually cracked the case.
Maybe.
They
It was
found the cause
actually
autism. It was ibuprofen, not
ibuprofen,
It's
Tylenol.
not Tylenol.
circumcised Tylenol babies who also twerk too early. It's
Circumcised
hungry.
twerking Tylenol babies.
Look, actually,
Yes.
they're going to announce how they lost the Epstein files. There was a file error.
My dog ate the
Cover
Epstein
it,
files.
and they're super
There
sorry.
was a sudden fire. Oh.
But regardless, tomorrow 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing Doobie versus the world. Doobie's had a lot to say, and a lot of people have some issues with what he's been saying. So if you want to take
Oh.
Doobie to task,
I stand by Doobie.
Is
no matter
Doobie
what
the
he's
frog?
saying.
Doobie is the
Yeah.
frog.
Yes,
Okay.
he's my
Doobie,
main
don't just
man.
say it like
What are we
that. He's
arguing
not
with
just
Doobie
the
about?
frog.
I don't know any other frogs.
What are,
He's
what
the
are we
best.
arguing with Doobie about?
Whatever you
Doobie's-
like. It's Doobie versus the
Everything.
world.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want to call in tomorrow and argue with him for a little bit, you very well could. And that's tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Then on Friday, a little later, we're going to be having a debate on whether or not it's a good thing that women have gotten the vote. And we're going to have Alishness
It's okay,
versus
Puppet. I
Kung Fu
forgive
Joe
you.
on that. And that should be fun.
Oh boy.
I know. And then next week is Christmas time. So we're going to only have really 2 streams pretty much.
Boo.
I know.
Boo, you love your
I'm going to be
family.
singing Christmas
Boo.
carols on the 24th.
Thank you, Louis, for
So-
upping.
Don't skip that one.
Yeah, you might want to. It's not my best stream, but it's fun and I enjoy doing it. So Christmas carols on the 24th, and then on 22nd we're gonna have a show on a article that was written in the Compact called "The Lost Generation," and talking about how DEI and the era of DEI led to white discrimination and anti-white issues.
Ugh.
And it was actually a pretty well written article, so I figure we'll do a show on it. So with that, the rest of you are free. If you can stay for Collins if you like, but if you need to go, I understand.
I gotta
So-
go do sex work. Sorry, guys. Have a good
Good
one.
luck.
Yeah, I have to go
That's
sell my body on the
I'm
street.
staying here to do sex work, actually. So
Okay.
All right, real quick, guys. Let me see if I can get the intermission working. Come on, webcam, turn on for me. There we go. Hey guys. All right, so let's do some updates, and then I'm gonna go. For one, thank you for tuning in. I hope that was entertaining to you. For two, I'm still going to Amfest. I am not doing a debate on the stream. Whether or not I declare why that is happening will be up in the air. I might never tell you. It might come out soon. I don't know, but I'm not doing it. But I am doing some on the street stuff. So I will try to live stream that with Erudite probably. Definitely with Pushing the Limits, Brian Shapiro, and maybe with Adam Mockler. He might be busy. But the Michael Knowles show was canceled. They didn't cancel me. They canceled the entire show. So I'm no longer doing that tomorrow night. Maybe you should make your camera get turned on for you. Also, real quick, I do want to share this. Let's see. Max, I don't know. Max doesn't really come in the chat. Drew this really fun soy pill. I don't know. One's in the chat if you would buy this on a shirt. I think it's kind of cute. But I might make this into merch, the soy pill. So if you're interested in that, maybe I'm gonna do that. Maybe stickers. I don't like stickers because they seem wasteful, but if you guys like stickers, yeah. And then finally, there was one more thing. I'm finishing up the script for the next vid. I expect to have it out by the end of the month. I don't want to take more than that because it's already been a month and 7 days since the last video, and I'm not comfortable with having 2-month delay in between vids. But I'm going to record it tonight, and I have help with the editing, so that should happen soon. Is there anything left? Yeah, Myron and Andrew dropped, but that's not because they're going to debate me. It's other crap. You would buy this as a shirt? All right, I'll try to throw it in the shop. And I already paid Max for their great work. Otherwise, was there anything else? Let's see. Going to Amfest, be there till Sunday. Videos on the way. Streaming. Probably going to do a Christmas stream. Not sure what I'm going to do. I don't know if you guys are interested in looking at like Expedition 33. Some people have told me to play, but I'll do something on Christmas so all the non-Christians and non-Christmas celebrators can hang out, or if you just don't want to talk to your family, up until the end of the night when I go to my little Christmas Eve thing. Yeah. I'll tell them why your debate isn't happening. Oh yeah, you know Andrew. If you want to. I mean, I'm going to tell people, but we'll see. We'll see how Amfest goes. Can we get a Fact Gator pin? Oh, that'd be fun. I don't know how much I can do with the old stuff. I actually had to buy the rights for the soy pill drawn thing from my friend who we're not friends with anymore, so we'll see. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Type 1 to the Deep State. I might stream tomorrow. Definitely Friday. Probably Saturday. So if you're interested in that, are you going to keep the catchphrase? I'm not using the catchphrase. No, I don't like catchphrases. I guess, hey, it's me, the soy pill is a catchphrase. Type 1 to the Deep State. I guess I do like catchphrases, but they got to be organic, all right? And not stupid. All right, have a good week.